Home is behind the wall ahead, and there are many paths to tread through shadow to the edge of night, until the stars are all alive. Mist and shadow, cloud and shade, all shall fade, all shall fade. Home is behind the wall, and there are many paths to tread through shadow to the edge of night, till the stars are all alive. Mist and shadow, cloud and shade, all shall fade, all
Hello. Welcome everyone to our first ever Rangers of the North stream, where we talk about all things Lord of the Rings, and obviously the big one of lately, the Rings of Power show on Amazon Prime has been a hot topic for sure. But as always, before we begin, I have to bring in the best traveler, adventurer I could ever hope for, Super Bro Corey.
Traveler adventure? I don't know about that. I'm feeling pretty safe here in the Shire. Nice and
Have
cozy.
you had second breakfast yet, or dinner, supper?
I've had second and third dinner already. It's time
Afternoon
to move
tea?
on to the dessert. Afternoon tea, yeah, all that, buddy. I'm staying safe in the Shire. This night ain't moving out too far, buddy.
Ain't moving out too far, but every now and then you have a wandering wizard send you on a journey to share, with his smoking pipe. Man, I'm actually really excited to talk about this show with everybody, because I feel like Rings of Power has been getting a lot of bad rep lately. And I feel like we need a little bit of a fresh take here from a different perspective, but I don't know what everyone on our panel that we're going to have today has to say about Rings of Power. So it could be a really great discussion, but nonetheless, It's going to be a fun show. As always, guys, to help us out so much, you can follow us on one of our social media pages at Twitter, Twitch, or Twitch. Did I say Twitch? Oh my God, I'm used to saying
you did say Twitch.
Twitch, eventually a Twitch, once we get our Xbox One Series thing going on. But yeah, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok at _Bat Channel, or if you're still on Facebook at Holy Bat Channel, because some jerk stole it. Stole our name, but whatever, we'll accept it. And of course, Discord will be coming soon. And if you feel like supporting us more and you enjoy our show, there's no better way to support than smashing that like, especially the replay crew. We hear you. Hitting that notification bell so you never miss an episode, and subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video, get your friends into the chat. Thank you so much, Ryan. Yeah, man, 1,500 subscribers, kind of crazy.
Shout out.
It's been really, really exciting, man. Thank you so much. But yeah, and we're just growing even more and building our community of great people. And speaking of those wonderful people, you guys have seen him on our show before.
Ooh.
He is the Savage Bat. Let's go to Bringing Savage Bat. Hey, brother, how's it going?
Yo, how's it going, people?
It's good to see you, buddy, as always. How's life treating you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Can't complain. Things are getting better.
Well, that's
Nice.
good, right? Happy.
Yeah.
We're gearing up for Black Adam. That's coming soon. I think that's going to be just an awesome film. I know Rotten Tomatoes hasn't thought that, but then again, who listens to Rotten Tomatoes? Because generally the audience score is not the same.
No. Well, you only have to look at certain movies they rated really high to realise they're totally full
to
of
understand what they consider a masterpiece, right?
Yeah. Like the Last Jedi, for instance.
There is that. Oh gosh, it's a film that shall not be named. But guys, one thing I'm super excited to bring on the panel. Like, I've always wanted her on our show, and I'm a huge fan of her channel. So to me, this is like super exciting. It's almost like I can't believe it's taken us this long to have her on. But ladies and gentlemen, Raya, the Glimmering Harpy, is in the house tonight. What is up, Raya?
Yeah.
Hey.
Yo, what's up? Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh man,
Yeah, Ray,
we're
what's
so
up?
excited. It's like you said, it's been a long time coming, Raya, but it's been so awesome to just enjoy your channel, all the great things you have going on over there, the gaming streams, the review streams that you've done. I've just always really enjoyed everything you've done, and you had a great stream today, Castlevania. I've never played that game, but just watching you play it, to me that's entertaining. So guys, if you haven't checked out Raya's channel, you need to. I believe I put it in the description. So,
But the other thing that I love about Raya, she's always such a great supporter of other channels too. She's always hyping people up, showing up in people's chats, and it's just absolutely
always positive. That's what we like to see.
Absolutely.
That's great to see.
Definitely, especially this week. It's been positive, smiles, all over the different streams that I've been catching, especially in regards to all the new announcements, and obviously Black Adam coming out this week. So there's a lot to be stoked on.
Yeah. There's just a ton of great content for us to review, and I think that's just, it's just part of the fun part of being a content creator is just all the things we get to talk about, and whether it makes you happy or something that you wish was better, we get a chance to discuss it with our audience and just kind of get their thoughts on it. And this is what I love about YouTube in general, is bringing people together to discuss, I don't know, sometimes controversial topics like Rings of Power. It seems like everywhere I go on YouTube, Twitter, even some of the articles that I read, it's nonstop just Rings of Power misses the mark. Rings of Power horrible. Rings of Power, disappoints. And to me, watching it, I didn't get the same impression watching it. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. And as someone who has read the Lord of the Rings books, read The Hobbit, recently just listened to it on audio, on the audiobooks. I just started reading the Silmarillion, so I'm sure that's where people who have read the Silmarillion are like, man, this is nothing like the books. But then again, to me, it's like, what movie that's based on a book ever follows it to the letter? So
no,
I
well,
guess,
the Lord of the Rings trilogy itself had loads of characters missing.
yeah.
Tom
Yeah, Tom
Bombadil.
Bombadil?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
they give that a pass for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, a
But,
huge
yeah.
character too, right? Like a lot of people have theories about who Tom Bombadil really is in the Middle Earth lore. But I guess before we actually like dive into Rings of Power, I feel like it's important for people, and maybe people who are watching our channel for the first time, maybe to have like each person go through and talk about your first experience with reading any of the Middle Earth books.
Hey,
Sorry,
Trey, before we dive there, we need to give a shout out to the chat as well. We got a lot of great people here today, and we already got a super chat in as well. So, shout out to Oracle's Clock Tower, hashtag Restore the Snyderverse guy, Bat Fanatic. You saw him earlier, Ryan Swayze's in the house,
Swayze.
Red Hooded Outlaw, boy Sean Franklin. You know we got Trevor H there. Did I say Beyond the Night? Let's see here. I know I'm missing a few, but Bat Fanatic coming in with the Rangers of the North.
My man,
stream.
Thank you so much for that
Let's fucking
$5
go.
super chat, Bafnag. You always come in hot supporting us, and that really does mean a lot, man. I really do appreciate that, Bafnag. And I heard Super Bro Corey made some super chats today in themes of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So, Corey, I'm going to let you, because I have no idea what any of them are. I'm going to let you have fun with this.
Since you're the first Ranger to step up, buddy, here you go.
By my life or death, I can protect you. I will. You have my sword.
You have my sword, Bat
sword.
Fanatic.
Aragorn, I love Aragorn. That's my favorite character ever. But I guess let's start with Savage, and then we'll go Raya, and then Corey. Talk about your experience with Lord of the Rings. Are you a fan? Are you kind of meh about it, or just in general? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, when I was growing up, there was the animated Lord of the Rings. That was my first ever experience with it. And then obviously the movies. I did read a bit of. I never read The Hobbit, but I read a bit of the Lord of the Rings when I was a teenager. But I can't really remember it. Once the movies came out, I just sort of just watched them. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of it.
And do you end? I mean, out of curiosity, being a huge fan of the movies, how many times do you watch it per year?
At least twice, all the way through, including The Hobbit as well. Yeah,
Okay.
It's one of
And
them things.
Have you seen the extended cuts?
I've got them. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I tell people don't even bother watching the theatrical cuts. They're obsolete once you've seen the extended cuts. There's no point in watching the other ones, and they're always the ones on the streaming services as well. So it's annoying, but there you go. Another reason to buy physical media.
Right, yeah, exactly. How about you, Ray? Where is your love for Middle Earth come from, and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so my first experience was reading the books of about Middle Earth was in middle school. In 6th grade, I read The Hobbit, and around that time, I knew that the films were really popular, and I think the films were still coming out, or at least like the trilogy was wrapping up right when I was in middle school, getting acquainted with the actual literature. But I was like way too young, or like my attention span was too small at the time to really like appreciate the series and watch the films. So fast forward to when I got older, like in my early 20s, I had friends who were really into Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Marvel, DC. So they actually took time to just sit down and watch these films with me that growing up I didn't really have a whole lot of interest in to just sit down and watch on my own, just because I didn't grow up in a household that really like appreciated the like nerd culture like that. It was just sort of shunned. So having friends that really like fostered and encouraged those interests for me really helped me like realize like this whole world of media that, although I grew up in that time frame of like, you know, late 90s, early 2000s when a lot of this stuff came out or started to grow in popularity, I just missed out on because like it was kind of not cool to be into those things. But yeah, now as an adult, like everyone's into that stuff, and there's this newfound appreciation for it, and now we're on the internet talking about it with a bunch of people around the world. So yeah, it's great.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's kind of funny how that like happens because I remember like being young and being like a nerd was like kind of like a silly thing because I don't know, I wasn't really into comics back then, but I was a jock, and then high school, middle school, I was always a Batman fan. I think everyone's always like a cinematic Batman fan, and then you start reading the comics and you're like, oh, that's really dope, and then you just get immersed in that world. And it's kind of the same with like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. You just kind of get immersed into that world and find what you love and are passionate about. And I think it just like, you know,
yeah, it's funny how all that flipped round. That being a geek was sort of very bit uncool, and then all of a sudden, you know, all the people that was making fun of me and taking the mickey out of me when they were going to see these movies, they were ringing me, coming up to me, asking me questions. You know, because I've been going on about it for years. Especially when the Dark Knight trilogy came out, and people was actually coming to me and thanking me for the movies. I was like, I didn't make them. I was just a Batman fan.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Well, guys, we actually have another panel member who just arrived, and I would love to have him chat about it as well, about kind of where he was first introduced to the whole Middle Earth, you know, lore and all that. But you've seen him on our show before, a great friend to our channel, Mr. Lord Kojay. How you doing, sir?
Writer Kojay.
Hey, what's up, fam? How you doing?
Yo.
Oh man, it's good to see you, brother. How's your day been?
Long. Glad to be here, though. Glad to be here. Just got off work, so yeah.
Today, I was literally getting off work and then like jumping right into like getting stuff ready for the show today. So the grind never ends, but that's part of the fun of it, I guess you could say.
Right?
My man, Lord Kojay.
Hey.
Your introduction to... Oh, are you frozen right now, or are you just doing a really great job staying still?
I'm moving.
Oh, no.
I'm moving.
I think...
Am I frozen?
Did we lose Kojay? Oh, no. Oh, there we go.
What? Oh, wait, hold on. I think
looks fine to me.
Yeah, he's fine.
What was that?
Am I good?
It was you, Trey.
Oh, man. What?
It's like the
We
wizard
may all
told me
have
to
to do
frozen.
that one day. Just completely mess with Trey. Like everybody take a weird pose and just stop.
I know, it's like...
I'm like thinking like his TV's not moving.
Oh, no, we got
something's
Raya.
going on.
Yeah, the TV's like totally moving.
Oh my gosh. Well, Kojay, it's so good to have you here, brother. As we kind of going around talking about where like love for Middle Earth has started, like whether it was the books or movies, give the people who probably haven't watched our show before, give us a little about yourself and like where your love or passion or maybe hatred for Middle Earth.
No hate, all love. So, IMAX version.
Yeah.
Now, TJs go down. So, I really Ralph Bakshi, that movie I saw it in the 80s, but Ralph Bakshi's movie Lord of the Rings, which kind of told the story of Fellowship and Two Towers. Kind of fast forward Two Towers, but that Ralph Bakshi film is what I grew up on, and I love that stuff. And I dressed accordingly. I love Sword and Shields, fantasy films, and all that, and it was because of movies like this and Conan the Barbarian and Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, the animated feature. It wasn't until like high school I knew about the books and I started reading them. And I read them once. It was a long time ago, and I was like not much of a reader. But the books were dope, and I liked them. But then when the movies came out, extended edition specifically, like Savage Bat was saying is the only way to watch it, that just stole my heart, because I'm very picky on these films, so I like what they did with the movies, and I've been a fan of Middle Earth since, I play Skyrim and everything for that, so I'm a total fantasy guy, even the comic books I write, even all that stuff is all not superhero based, but swords and shields and fantasy based. So, because I grew up on like all this stuff and Lone Wolf and Cub comics and martial arts, so anything with swords, magic, and period, it's like I'm there.
It sounds like mine and Kojay's was the same, Growing up,
we're just twins, man.
The animated series.
Your English brother from
the animated, the animated movies, and I discovered recently. I don't think I've ever seen it. There was a Return of the King of it as well.
In the 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so there's two things. Ralph Bakshi had the deal to do Fellowship and the Two Towers, and another company it was like a mini-series event, each episode each night. They did The Hobbit, and then they did Return of the King. So it was a different company that did it. What was cool is that they had the songs that are in the books. They actually did that in the animated movies, and that's when Gollum, he looked like a gecko from Geico back then. Yeah, that's what those were. I like those. Those are kind of whatever, but I loved Ralph Bakshi's one too because that was just classic.
Every Christmas, they used to show it on TV every Christmas. You know, before when we had like I think 3 channels back then.
I had 2. I had to do the knob. It's like 1 to 13, A, B, C, and then you had to flip it. What channels, you know? Oh, good times, good times.
So we need to take a deep dive into this real quick, brother. So you write comics, Oracle Clock Tower asks.
Yes, I always have been since I was 11. That's how I learned how to do screenwriting and storyboards because I couldn't make a movie, so I figured I'd draw my own comic books. I don't know where they are. They're around here. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that some more sometime. So
yeah.
But pal, and before we get too further, Trevor H coming in with the super chat.
Trev,
much love, Trevor
my
H.
man. You too
Books
kind
or
with that
movies?
$10 super chat. Which movie is your favorite of the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogy? Okay.
right.
We'll go around and start with Savage, Raya, and then Kojay, and then Corey again.
Okay.
Yeah, most definitely the Fellowship of the Ring for me. As we were saying earlier, before this, Sean Bean, Boromir is my favourite character.
Oh yeah, mine too.
Yeah. So without a doubt, the Fellowship of the Ring, just because of Sean Bean, really. Not with 10,000 men could you do this. It is folly. Yeah.
How about you, Raya?
Yeah. So I'm actually gonna add on to that. Fellowship is my favorite of the trilogy as well. So for a different reason. So I actually like it a lot because I feel like I get the most characterization of the 9 characters in the Fellowship during that movie. I get a sense of their bonding, their kinship towards one another. You really get a sense that they spend a vast amount of time together right before they unfortunately have to separate, or they part ways, or some of them fall, or some are believed to have fallen. So before that, when the group splits up, I get a lot of details about their personalities, some of their character flaws, or things that they eventually grow out of, or that they become stronger assets to the group overall and to the plot later on. So yeah, I definitely love the foundation that Fellowship sets for this story overall.
Nice. I didn't think that.
Dang.
See, there's a lot of good choices, Kojay. A lot of good choices. How about you?
No. This is all right. Mine is Fellowship of the Ring too. I'm not coming out. Here, I love it so much that I own the extended edition on Blu-ray and the theatrical on Blu-ray. So if I just want to watch Fellowship, I watch the theatrical version because I really like that cinematic experience for that chapter. But if I watch all of them, I watch the extended. So it's weird. But for me, 2 reasons why I like Fellowship. 1, I feel the start of any journey, for me anyways, is the hardest. Like, let's say going on a new routine, like going to the gym, or your first year at college. I always feel like that's make or break it. And for me, if you pass like the beginning, it's kind of like, well, it's not smooth sailing, but it's easier to keep going. And second is I love Boromir, because for me as a kid, he always kind of reminded me of my father. He kind of looked the same. And I like Boromir because he redeemed himself. And I was kind of hoping my pops would too. But so that's why that always hits a special place in my heart. Fellowship all the way.
Deep.
Oh. Super bro, Corey.
Always.
Dang, man, I think I have to switch it up, bro. Like, the Fellowship is great. And I'm struggling with this question, Trey. This is a tough question, man. Like, I like them all for different reasons, but for the sake of switching it up, I think I'm going to go The Hobbit Unexpected Journey for me. So I just love that movie, man.
That is a strange choice.
Yeah, I actually really love that movie. I don't know. It brought me back to Gandalf and everything like that again. I love the elves. I love the music, the songs. It was like either that or the Desolation of Smaug. So I was like, those two were very high up on my list there. Because I feel like I have to go different. We're all saying the Fellowship, so I'm going to switch it up. Like,
fair enough.
To not be repetitive, I'm going to go The Hobbit: Unexpected Journey.
My man, I can tell
enough.
we're brothers. I can tell we are brothers.
Yeah? Did you pick it?
Okay, so here's the thing. And I guess to also kind of answer the first thing where we're like kind of getting to know each other a little bit. So when I was in elementary school and we lived here in Illinois, my brother had a teacher named Mr. Crane who was like, I think I was telling this story to Raya in her chat one day, but he had a teacher that was practically a hobbit. He was almost that short, but he wasn't that short. But he was totally lived the lifestyle of a hobbit, like comfort. He was so in love and passionate about Lord of the Rings, and he would read the books to my brother's class. Now, why that's like connected to me is my brother would come home from school and telling me about these stories, these incredible stories about Middle Earth. And one thing that like super intrigued me was a dragon that talked and like cared about having gold and stuff like that. And I remember thinking like, that is just like so interesting. Usually dragons are just like destructive, flying dinosaur creature things. Why would a dragon talk and want gold? What purpose would it serve? And my brother went to that teacher and he said, hey, my brother really likes the character Smaug. Can I bring that book home and have him look at it? And there was the coolest painting I ever saw. I'll have to find it sometime of Smaug, where he was just this beautiful red and like the gold on his belly. And I remember from that moment on, I was like, oh my God, I love this character. I love Smaug. And read The Hobbit like in elementary school in second grade, like hard to do. Trust me, I didn't understand everything I was reading, but I went for it. But ever since that moment, I was like, oh man, Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, love Smaug, love Bilbo, love Gandalf as some of my favorite characters, and Lord of the Rings, Aragorn, some of my favorite stuff in the entire world. So because of that, Hobbit has always had a special place in my heart. So Unexpected Journey, the music especially was just so good in that movie. And it just like, it was almost perfect for like the Hobbit book. Like it took me to that innocence, that fantasy world of Middle Earth. Like it felt like I was reading the books, but seeing it on screen. So Unexpected Journey is there.
Every time we go camping and there's a fire, or anytime there's a fire, we'll bring out our pipes and like we specifically bought church wardens and stuff like that, so we can have the long Gandalf pipes and smoking around the campfire, listening to the music,
The salted pork is particularly nice.
The misty mountains, just like
over the misty mountains.
Yeah.
Wow,
No, it's good stuff, man. And we go to like to the tobacco stores and we're like, yeah, can we get some Hobbit weed, and stuff like that.
And all of that.
Yeah. And we'll just have that Misty Mountains on repeat for like the entire campfire.
Yeah, we're a bit ridiculous about it. Like our father looks at us all the time like, what the hell are you guys doing? We're just sitting there like
But since we got a $10 super chat, Trey, can I play it?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Pow.
Not taking the Hobbit's toys and gone. 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 Not taking the Hobbit's toys and gone.
They're taking the Hobbit's eyes and gone.
I thought you were joking when you said you were going to use that.
Oh hell yeah! Dude, I was like, put out there.
Yo, they gotta bump that.
That's brilliant.
They gotta
Like if
bump
we get
that
$10 super
Oktoberfest.
chat, that's what's happening.
The other day, I messed with my wife because she had to get up for the airport to go to a something for her work, a meeting for her work in Texas, and I had that Gandalf with the sax music, where he's just doing this nonstop playing for 10 hours. There's so many great memes that have come from Lord of the Rings. It's gotten ridiculous, but it's you know what? It's part of the fun. Well, guys, Kojay, I know you weren't
one, by the way, too.
Oh yeah, actually, I saw a lot of people in the chat saying which movies they really loved. So what's kind of the consensus? Is I bet everyone's a lot of Return of the King. Yeah.
The Hobbit from Butler, Unexpected Journey, Two Towers. I like that. Beyond the Night says Return of the King. Trevor H. Hobbit 1. Fellowship for Restore the Snyderverse guy. Wonder Wife Sarah is in the chat. Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, and Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring.
Solid. That's the same as mine.
Yeah. Return of the King. She says, I cannot choose one between both trilogies. I see, Sarah. Always watch the extended cut. Absolutely. You know what? I haven't watched the extended cuts yet. I was waiting.
Criminal.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was waiting to watch it with you someday, Trey, because I specifically bought them. I was like, oh, we need to watch them together. We just haven't gotten around the time to do it. But it looks like some people waited and other people did not wait, Trey.
Bro, I saw it way before you. And before you even bought that collection, I was like, get on it.
Tisk. Yeah, no, I haven't watched it yet. And then for reasons, I kind of stepped away from the Lord of the Rings series for a little bit. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, a lot of great comments. And yeah, I think we're ready to roll, Trey.
I think we are too. So guys, obviously everyone is here because they really want to hear a different take on the whole Rings of Power show on Amazon. As we know, is very costly for Amazon. They really spared no expense when it came to this show. And visually, it definitely showed. You know, they definitely put a ton of money on it. So, Kojay, I know you weren't here for the beginning, but kind of as I was telling people, what we're going to do is kind of a non-spoiler section for those who haven't seen the show yet, who have maybe heard all the negative reviews, and it's kind of put them off about seeing Rings of Power. I figured, let's tell them, non-spoilers, is it worth watching? What was some of the things that you really liked? And then after we give in our 2 cents, and if you are against, like, it wasn't worth your time, it wasn't worth the 8 hours you spent watching it, then go ahead and tell them that and we'll discuss it. But I figured, let's give those people who are on the fence, who maybe want to watch it, maybe don't want to watch it, is it worth their time? But no spoilers. Savage, my man.
Well, aside from being like the most expensive TV show ever made, and you can see it really when since from the start, it's really, really high quality. The story just kept me guessing all the way through, and I like stuff like that. To be, to think, oh, is it so and so? It's who's who, and all that. And I really, really enjoyed it, and. I can understand the die-hard fans of the books maybe are a bit upset by it, but I don't really care about that. So I'm just enjoying it, and I think it's really good, and can't wait for more.
Absolutely. Yeah. How about you, Miss Raya?
Yeah. So what I really liked about the series is that, as far as the ability for the story to cover, let's say, like, the source material being over the course of like centuries, there was the huge task of having like time compression. And what I liked that they took some cues from the Peter Jackson movies was how they were able to make it plausible that events were taking a reasonable amount of time to accomplish, such as like the building of the smithing tower where they built, or where they composed the rings, or where the dwarves' mining expedition to retrieve the mithril, or even Galadriel going from on her voyage to the Undying Lands to when she went back into the ocean, got saved by Halbrand, yada yada, made it over to Numenor, then Numenor going over to the Southlands. So yeah, although like one would expect a lot of these events to happen over the course of like in terms of Tolkien, like over the course of like hundreds, like potentially like decades. Yeah, the time compression made it so that they were able to tell a succinct story while still hitting the beats of some created characters for the show, i.e. Halbrand, and some I would say creative liberties taken with some of the characters within Numenor, like the Queen Regent, the counselor dude, Farazan, I forget what his name is. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Yada yada yada. So basically, a lot of like the significant beats from like the Silmarillion and other extended texts from Tolkien. They all had like missing pieces, and a lot of them take place, like I said, over an expended amount of time. So I appreciate that the creators of the show took on this task to just sort of make a quilt, so to speak, of the source material, while putting in some invented aspects, especially like for areas that had to be like sort of created in order to make a narrative out of these bodies of text that Tolkien left us that are more or less just descriptions of places and people, not necessarily a story in and of themselves, and then make that into a tapestry of a narrative. So yeah, I commend the staff of the Rings of Power show for basically taking these bits of cloth of this story that Tolkien left us and making it into a quilt of a narrative, basically.
I like
well said. Yeah.
Yes.
That was well said.
What Raya said.
Come in.
Pow!
If that didn't convince you right there, I don't know what will.
Yeah.
Just give up. Move on to the next channel.
I'm gonna start watching now, guys.
Corey's like, I'm done. I'm going. Kojay, how about you, sir? What's your general thoughts to those who are on the fence about it?
It's weird because I hear the purest criticism, and to be fair though, from what I've read of what Tolkien likes is that I think his complaint or a complaint about the Ralph Bakshi one was that his story was turned into an action movie instead of like a drama. So essentially any adaptation is really not to their wishes. So I can understand liberties with the colorblind casting. I think that's just a sign of the times. But since the whole thing is not Tolkien telling the story, then you could just hope for them to do the most care and beautiful job that they can do. And I think that's what they're doing, honestly. And it's worth a view. My only criticism is I'm not a fan of casting certain actors for certain roles, but I am warming up to a couple of things, and I have some issues with some of the dialogue. I feel like some of the story drags, but overall it is worth it because I'd rather have a story that is planned to be ongoing. Like, I don't know how many seasons they're going to go. Are they going to try and keep up with Game of Thrones or something? But if they are, I prefer them taking time to, plant seeds and let this redefine itself and carry on, because it is an unofficial story, but it's here and it's fun, and they're doing the best they can to honor the movies. I would feel this is more based off of the movies and some of the lore, but it's like its own thing, and I think it's something to enjoy, and it's worthwhile to watch and form your own opinion, I think, because they're doing a lot of cool stuff with what Raya was saying with taking cues from it. Like, you can see the certain groups of characters going on a certain journey, and in fact I think the action goes harder than the movies. Even I think they go a little bit more brutal than the PG-13 ones can do. I feel like in the future we're going to get more rated R type action, and that's explained in the books, but they didn't do it with the PG-13 type of movie. So I think they have liberties and also abilities to push the envelope, and it's kind of cool because when you see the movies, especially Fellowship, they go across all these areas and planes and where there is history, and then we kind of get to see that history unfold in this story. So I think it's definitely worth a watch and enjoyment, especially if you just like fantasy and all. And if you don't if you're like a purist, I think you could just watch it on its own, like for its own merit. It's I feel it's enjoyable. I just don't like certain actors and lines, but I could get over that because there's more positive than negative, way more positive than negative, and the positive is worth checking out, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's also there's been, I don't know if there's any truth to it, but there's been rumours floating around from people like Deadline and stuff like that it's been for season 5.
Oh
Wow.
Yeah,
So
so
they went with the Witcher route where they were like already guaranteed. I think they had talked about
Yeah.
with The Witcher on Netflix, like 7 seasons were already guaranteed to Henry Cavill.
Ooh.
So, wow.
No,
My man
I
Noel's
love
in the
5.
house.
Yeah,
I
Noel's
love
in the
that.
house. What's up, Noel?
Noel.
He says the Lord of the Rings universe will go on for a targeted 10 years. Interesting.
Well, that makes sense. 5 seasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think for me, I would say absolutely watch it. It's I'm tired of people, hating on stuff before they even give it a chance or watch. So
Definitely.
if you don't watch it, you can't. Your opinion doesn't matter in my book. You
Yeah,
haven't
100%.
given it a chance to view it. So. It's been a nice introduction or reintroduction or revisit. I was telling my Trey when I was watching it this weekend, back to the Lord of the Rings for me. So I actually enjoyed the series as a whole. There are some themes and plots that concern me about the overall integrity and the entire lore of Lord of the Rings, but we're in season 1, people. So the people who are like the diehard Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and the tokens, they need to chill for a second. I feel like, and let's see how this plays out. Let's see what these stories, how these stories move forth coming into future seasons is what I say. So give it a chance.
Yeah, I feel like personally, if people are on the fence about this show based off what they've heard from others, don't, and I'll be fully honest with you guys. I was one of them. I was the one like telling my wife, and she can attest to this, that I was very nervous about the show because a lot of the content creators that I was watching, who I think they are educated, they've read the Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion, they're really immersed into the Middle Earth lore, and they kept just talking about, this is trash, this is absolutely awful, this is a complete disgrace to Tolkien's work. Like, and like, I'm not going to support this, even though they did reviews on the show just to trash it more.
Yeah.
And to me, it was kind of like, I was getting nervous because of everything I was hearing, all the clips I was seeing of what they were talking about, saying this right here is an issue. And I was going like, oh my God, like, yeah, I heard that they're not even using Peter Jackson as a guide, someone to advise on the show. Like, that's kind of nerve wracking. And that's, the shadiness when some people were spinning the story that Christopher Tolkien, when he passed away, that's when they really started to kickstart writing the show because they didn't have to worry about his approval anymore. I was hearing all those like criticisms and controversies that I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know. I don't want to get heartbroken because I'm such a big Lord of the Rings fan. I mean, I'm not like the insane people that just like, they can speak Elvish,
You didn't want to Star Wars 7 you.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I didn't want it to Star Wars Last Jedi me with this show. But I watched it because, you know what? I am a Lord of the Rings fan, and I wanted to inform my own opinion. And in doing so, I remember watching the first episode, even the episodes that weren't, because it's a show, some of those filler episodes. I found myself getting the same feelings that I did watching the movies. Maybe like if the books, I mean, I haven't read all the Silmarillion, so I can't really say, but I watched a lot of videos about the lore and the history of the Silmarillion. And so I know a lot of what happens. But to me, it was like watching it, I felt like they hit the tone, they hit the the stylistic, I guess the stylistic language that the Peter Jackson films hit for Lord of the Rings. And to me, I felt like I was back in the Lord of the Rings world, but also it added another element to, because there was themes we haven't seen in Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, because this is centuries before everything happened. So for me, it was a phenomenal show. The cinematography was beautiful. The music was great. Bear McCreary, who's done many great scores like Walking Dead. He did Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is easily one of the best scores, in cinema history. And I mean, he just nailed it on this one. The opener was done by the great Howard Shore, who did all the Lord of the Rings films. So music, they were hitting all these themes. And with some of the characters, I felt like they picked really good actors for those characters who you could go like, yeah, that kind of looks like Ian McKellen, at this age, all those types of things. So for me, if you haven't watched the show, if you're on the fence about it, if you've been listening to the people who are just negative against it, I will 100% take credit for Trey watching the show. Yes, Wonder Woman. Yeah. She definitely kept saying watch it. But I was worried. I was worried that was going to be heartbroken. Now you could say, well, Trey, that just made you lower your expectations. You were expecting to be disappointed, so maybe crap was good for you. Me personally, I don't think it was crap. I think it was good. I think it was handled in a way where you felt like you were back in that world, and it wasn't completely foreign, but it also added an element that was fascinating, interesting, and each episode had you wanting more the next. So I'm very excited for season 2. Hashtag your wife was right again. Yes, honey, you are right. But yeah, I would say if you haven't watched Rings of Power, give it a chance, inform your own opinion, and let us know in the comments if you're watching it for the first time. I would love to hear from you guys. Was it worth it? Did you feel like it paid respect? And one thing I would say for anyone that says Trey's wife, thank you, Corey, for typing all that out. you're helping me right now, some brownie points. But one thing I think is important to consider, and we've kind of already talked about, is like what movie or TV show or any type of entertainment medium that's based on a book ever follows it super close. Like basically it's just throwing the pages on the screen. No one does that. Peter Jackson didn't do it. There was no Tom Bombadil. There was characters that he added in The Hobbit that weren't in the Hobbit book.
Even though it had some bits missing and they changed some, I think Watchmen is probably the only example I've ever seen where it's nearly the same as the comic.
Oh, I was going to say The Crow. But yeah.
Oh, The Crow. Yeah, The Crow's
Watchmen.
It's out there. It's rare, though. It's rare.
It looked like Raya was about to say something, too.
Oh,
yeah, I was going to mention, to Juan's point in the chat, I do feel bad for this show going up against House of the Dragon. Grant, it premiered right after, the first episode of House premiered, so there was already a really high bar set, and then it ended right before House of the Dragon is about to wrap up this week, so... Yeah, I will definitely say that, even I was, compelled to draw some comparisons, even if, we're talking purely on, the production quality. Some things that I was critical of, too, like Trey, to your point. I appreciate that you're, making concessions about the show not being perfect, but you still were willing to give it a chance, and you were surprised at the quality that you experienced. So for me... quality in the cinematography was definitely there. The production value was there. There were some shots, some editing, I should say, that I felt was not as streamlined or as was a little jarring. Where, in the most recent episode, for example, in the beginning where the stranger is walking through the forest, they would make really drastic cuts from when he would walk from one point to the forest and all of a sudden he would encounter the 3 witches or the 3 sorceresses, and there would not be a huge explanation of okay, what happened between him and this point, and then him being encountered by by the enemy. So I will say that there are some some editing challenges or some criticisms that I had there, as well as some of the motivations of the characters not 100% being effectively communicated on screen as well, or made apparent for the audience to infer naturally, let's say, in general. the biggest complaint I've heard in my experience watching the show and having discourse with other people online about it was Galadriel. That was probably the biggest point of contention for a lot of people, was the lack of empathy a lot of viewers felt in, her struggle to, defeat the great evil and prove herself worthy to go into the Undying Lands. And she revealed in the last episode she didn't feel worthy enough to go into the Undying Lands because she still had this, commitment in her heart to defeat the great evil before she could truly rest and be at peace. But that is something that, although I feel like the show communicated that well to me, that wasn't the case for a whole lot of other people watching the show either. Some of the dialogue admittedly, there are some points in the show that I felt that the dialogue was not as well written or as eloquent, or maybe not as well delivered as, let's say, unfortunately, an unfair comparison maybe, to House of the Dragon, where House of the Dragon has a really great way of developing tension and suspense and captivating you with the character interactions, whereas Rings of Power is somewhat, still finding its way to get to that point to be as captivating. And it may just very well be that the mystique of, Game of Thrones has us all captivated because of House of the Dragon returning after so many years. And Rings of Power has to live up to that because as an audience, we've been without Lord of the Rings content since the last Hobbit movie. So we haven't really had anything to warm us up to get us acclimated back into, into being in that Middle Earth state of mind. So yeah, those are just some high level, criticisms that I had about, the editing, some of the writing, some of the character motivations as well, not being as well outlined for the audience to be able to follow along and empathize with all the characters as best as I think that it could have been done.
All right, yeah, and yeah, I think some fair criticisms there too, because in some of those things I did pick up on a few moments where I didn't feel like some lines were portrayed in the way that it felt like there was some deeper meaning there, but it was kind of done either subtly or maybe over the top in a sense. But I do feel that yeah, there was some editing issues as well. But overall, I think generally it was a fairly solid start. And out of curiosity, because you keep bringing up House of Dragons, Raya, do you think going forward, maybe what will help Amazon and the success of this show is to make sure it doesn't play during the same time as the next season of House of Dragon?
Possibly, but I think, and y'all may be more well-informed than I am about this, since you talk more about pop culture and TV and film than I do, but apparently there is a strategy around having shows like this premiere in the fall because more people are home and more likely to watch these long form fantasy driven contents or content types. So I'm not sure how flexible they can be to maybe premiere it in spring or maybe in January or something where people will still be at home and they'll be outside of that window of House of the Dragon premiering. But I do think that sort of was always the elephant in the room, even for my viewing experience, where I just found myself comparing it just because I had Rings of Power literally bookend it, from beginning to end with House of the Dragon premiering right after it. So there would always be that bar to compare it to, unfortunately, which I found really hard to, remove that, remove that metric from my mind in the viewing experience, unfortunately.
I like what Noel said here. House of Dragon is a political drama disguised as a high fantasy narrative. Rings of Power is a solid mythology story. They are not in the same league. That's a solid some takes on it as well.
That's a wonderful point, Noel, because especially I think for me, and this might be a hot take, I actually enjoyed Rings of Power far more than I'm enjoying House of Dragon. And I think part of that is because House of Dragons can make you really angry and irritated by some of the actions of the people that it almost stresses you out. And I felt like Rings of Power for me was more of an escape. I was on a journey to watch these characters that I really was able to grow to. And
I never
time jumps.
I never even finished Game of Thrones because of that.
I can't even make it past the first episode of Game of Thrones straight.
And again, they spoiler alert, they killed off Sean Bean in the first season. I won't have that.
Sean Bean. Anytime you see Sean Bean, yeah, you just know that he's gonna go. And I even heard that interview with Sean Bean. He's just like, I love characters that die. It's like, stop it.
It is funny though. It is funny though, for sure, because kind of going back to like the mythology story. The one thing that Lord of the Rings, I feel like, has always done well and has always been successful at, no matter who directs it. And same goes for Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and now The Rings of Power. Is they take you on a journey, and you still get that journey and the travel, the story through Rings of Power as well.
Yeah, no, I think you've nailed it there. So guys, it sounds like for the most part, everyone's kind of like, if you haven't watched Rings of Power, should you give it a chance? Is everyone pretty much yes on that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, 100%.
No.
And for anyone that's on the fence, that's perfect. Political stories aim to flame emotions. Mythology stories refreshes our imagination. Absolutely.
Man.
Noel's coming in deep.
That's deep.
Yeah, man. And you've nailed it on the nail. Like just perfect explanation of the difference between House of Dragons and Rings of Power. And I feel like you're either gonna be really for that or against that. And I think with Rings of Power, they did a good job of capturing that imagination and almost that innocence that the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films did, especially with Peter Jackson's trilogies. And obviously, House of Dragons is going to be... There's some messed up things that happen in House of Dragons that are hard to watch at some points. And, for me, I kind of like just the escape lately, especially in a crazy world. Right?
I think they try to get a little too radical in some ways, like which cousin's going to sleep with which cousin, which dad and sister, like it's just weird,
Alabama.
Right? They try to go very, and I'm sure that happened back in the times, but sometimes it seems to me like they try to go so just like overboard in your face with craziness that
I know a lot of people
sometimes
enjoy the Game of Thrones and House of Dragons, but for that reason I'm not really a fan of it. There was a certain thing, a wedding in Game of Thrones where everyone got murdered. There was a pregnant woman there, and it was I was just like, right, I've had enough of this.
I've never seen Game of Thrones.
It was just too negative for me.
I was one of those people that's watching season 8 of Game of Thrones. I remember saying to my wife, like, it wasn't worth it. After watching season 1 through 7, big Game of Thrones fan, watching season 8, I was like, I almost told Sarah, and once again, she's the reason why I've been watching House of Dragons, because of season 8 of Game of Thrones. I was like, I don't know if I care about House of Dragons or not. And it's a good show. It's more of the same craziness and absolute, savagery of that Westeros world that if you're into that, like, kudos, but sometimes it's hard to watch some of the crazy things that happens.
I think it's like not just different worlds. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I think it's not just different worlds, but it's also different styles of narrative, because they're both fantasy, but one is like a realistic optimism type of narrative in darkness, and the other one is like realistic pessimism in this fantasy darkness. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just like, where they focus on of where these characters are going to be like fighting for and how they endure. Where one is like more like we said, like political driven. The other one's like kind of another type of like, that journey, mythological optimism kind of task, and all this craziness.
Yeah.
It's just different.
All some really great takes. And I think you can find joy in both shows, House of Dragons and Rings of Power. And honestly, it's in terms of the fantasy genre of entertainment, I think they both have an interesting view on how to approach the fantasy genre. and I think you'll find something in both to appreciate. But now that we're gonna get into, I feel like if you haven't watched Rings of Power, we all agree. Oh shit! Yes, I am drinking the meat.
Busted.
Did you see me as soon as I saw Wonder White Bond? I took the meat bottle. Sorry. Yes, honey. I'll buy more meat. Like you're talking to me. Like I'll buy more meat. Like take my money. Someone has a bottle of mead.
Busted live on YouTube.
She texted me. She's like, "Oh,
You are dead to me."
Right? She's like, "I'm gonna be busy tonight. I won't be able to watch the show." And I was like, "Cool, mead."
I didn't need it. I didn't need it.
She's getting the lawyer ready. I'm just kidding. But I feel like we're ready to kind of dive in now to the actual show. Talk about the characters. Talk about maybe if you want to reveal some spoilers that really affected how you felt about the show, or things you liked or didn't like about it. I think we're going to go ahead and get into our spoilers. So if you have not watched Rings of Power, this is your final warning to give yourself some time. Get out now before something's completely spoiled for you. You have...
It's a trap.
It's a trap. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Guys. Characters. I know some of you have talked about, I think Raya and Kojay have talked about how some characters didn't quite do it for you. And then I'm sure there were some characters that are like, oh yeah, I can get behind them. Let's go down the line. Savage, Raya, and then Kojay, and then obviously Super Bro Corey. Tell me some of who are your favorite characters, and maybe some miscastings, or maybe just didn't like how they portrayed the certain character, or what they had to add to the show. Savage, let's start with you.
Unexpected. I think probably my favourite character. I can't remember his name now. The Black Elf. I thought he was really cool. Like the action stuff. And he's just
something like that.
Just his sort of seriousness. He really felt like a real Lord of the Rings character to me. And then the dwarf prince,
Durin.
Durin. Yeah, I thought he was like really cool and really funny. Yeah. So those two top two. Oh, and Galadriel, of course, as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, because Galadriel's character has kind of hit or missed with a few, with the audience in some cases. What about her and the way the actress portrayed Galadriel worked for you?
I just think it come across. I think she pulled off being really old but looking really young, really well. That was the thing that I liked about her character, because their elves are thousands of years old, and obviously you do see Galadriel go a little bit wacky in the movies, but in this you sort of see her. Unleashed is probably the best way of explaining it. And she's a sort of big famous warrior, and it kind of sort of makes sense of why kind of Gandalf and people like that are like, oh wow, it's Galadriel, and it's because of all this stuff that she done over these thousands of years, being a cool warrior and queen or whatever you like. Yeah, so I just really like that about her, really.
Was there any actor or character that didn't really do it for you in terms of adding to the story?
Not really. I'm trying to think. No, not really. I just the sort of leader of the orcs.
Adar?
Adar kind of sort of pissed me off when he first started, but I think that was just good writing because he's a bad guy, so that don't really count. But yeah.
Okay. And how about you, Raya? So you had talked about some characters that worked and some characters that didn't.
Yeah. So for me, I was more or less just citing the criticism about Galadriel being one of the hugest talking points about this show online. But for me personally, I praised the show for characters like Arondir and let's see, Bronwyn. Bronwyn was the human female in the village who took up the leadership role over the Southland folks when they were under siege from the orcs. And let's see, I also really liked Elendil. I'm surprised we haven't mentioned folks from Numenor too much yet. So Numenor was the one place and body of characters within that residence, or like within that region, that I knew absolutely nothing about going into watching the show. So I had zero bar of like, to hold them to, as far as like pre-existing knowledge or depictions in media and stuff. So Elendil had amazing, regal, but humble, down-to-earth vibes. He exuded, leadership roles, nurturing father, like personality, and yeah, he was just an amazing presence on screen as well. He just exuded, the empathetic hero character that I'm assuming a lot of us took to heart when we were introduced to Aragorn. So I got like huge, which makes sense because he's an ancestor of Aragorn, spoiler alert, and Isildur. So Isildur was the one character that I was worried about, because when we were introduced to him, I didn't know we were going to be introduced to Isildur in this show. When we were, I got worried because I'm like, what is the show going to do about all this time compression that is happening? And I mentioned in what I was saying earlier about the show having that challenge of like trying to legitimize time compression with the information Tolkien left us in order to create a successful narrative. I feel like I'm assuming this is a spoiler territory for a lot of people, so it's okay for me to get into spoilers?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So it's assumed that Isildur is dead, right? But we all know that that's not the case. Like, he's going to become the king of Gondor, So yes, I'm assuming he is going to stay like near the Southlands and potentially like join another village or kingdom, and then rise up the ranks and become king or something like that. I'm assuming that's what's going to happen, but until we actually see that in season 2 or onward, I'm going to assume, since there's no body shown on screen, he's not dead. Like, that's rule, like, that's one of the top 10 rules in cinema, right? If there's no body, then the person's not dead. So that was one character I was like really nervous about, was Isildur, because that was the one character I did have a bar to, compare them to, the Peter Jackson depiction of Isildur, who was like a complete, like, he was the reason why Middle-earth almost fell, basically. So, but I feel like the show really succeeded in making, in humanizing Isildur and showing him as like, he's just sort of this like kid who's living in the shadow of his father, who's the most well-respected man in the entire kingdom outside of Pharazôn, the counselor. So yeah, like he's just trying to find his way. He's just hoping to do something that's actually worthy enough to stand up alongside his father and be celebrated as someone who contributed value to his kingdom. And he actually has memories of a greater version of Numenor in the past, which him and Galadriel talk about while they're on the boat to the Southlands. So I think they're going to explore a little bit more of Isildur in season 2. At least I would hope so. So I have the most optimism to see Isildur really grow as a character, when or if we see him again in the new season.
Yeah,
Nice.
Great things, for sure.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask something. Do you know the Numenor place? Is that the same place where the two big statues of the guys holding their hands up? Is that the same place? It's not.
No.
I was a bit confused about that.
I don't want to give spoilers to what is potentially going to happen in the future, but it is not. It is not the same place from the Fellowship. It's a lot of it is supposed to, like, these people are going to really influence the world of men from the Middle Earth that we know of, Gondor, Rohan, like Raya had mentioned. Elendil, who's the father of Isildur, ancestor of Aragorn. That whole group at one point will become the descendants of the Duradine, which is like the Rangers of the North and stuff like that. So they'll have connections that go on throughout Middle Earth, but no, it's not the same place.
No,
something happens that really propels their story forward into the Second Age and what eventually becomes into the Third Age and the Battle of Sauron and everyone like that. But yeah, the good catches of the references and I think another way of like kind of bringing the world all together of what seems familiar that we know in the Lord of the Rings. So yeah, good catches, Savage. Kojay, how about you, sir? What some of the characters that really hit for you and maybe the few that didn't?
So I got the cast on here so I can remember. So, Ishmael Cruz, the guy who's the black elf. Here. That's my boy. I like that guy. That guy's cool. Like the moment he came in just looking around, I don't know. I had a hard time remembering his name because I nicknamed him Donnie as like Donnie Yen. He's the Donnie Yen. And I was cheering for this guy from every scene he was not in. I didn't like because I was like, that's my boy. Because he's like the ninja elf like Legolas was. So I feel he's like really that type of character, and I love how he's killing it. No pun intended, or maybe. Charlie Vickers, who plays Halbrand, I'm kind of iffy with him, just as an actor. But the character surprised me towards the end because it's like, because Sauron's a deceiver. So I like the spin that they did right there because I totally thought it was Orin, played by Joseph. I'm like, I know these people. I'm reading off of here. And the actor casting for Elrond, Robert Aramayo. I'm torn because I really like his Elrond in the show, but I'm not getting any Hugo Weaving vibe at all, and that's what's kind of jarring for me. But it's not. It's just a difference of. I feel like how they're perceiving the characters are like totally different, and they also don't look the same to me. That's tripping me out. But I get it. Elrond is older and maybe more cynical later. And it's really nice seeing Elrond more hopeful, full of life. His bond with his dwarven homie is really precious. I like that a lot. And who is the female dwarf who's married?
Disa.
I like her a lot. She's badass, and I don't know if that's real. Oh, there she is, Disa. Yeah, I don't know if it's really her voice singing at that moment. But I like that the show is embellishing the vocalization because there's a lot of songs in this lore, and it's cool when they take time and you hear music, you hear like that Enya vocals every now and then, or Lorena McKinnon type of stuff. And I really like what they're doing with a lot of the characters that they casted. And Markella, who's the little people, what are they called in this? Can someone help me?
Half-foots, yeah.
Half-foots, yeah. So the half-foots. She's totally like, the Frodo of it, she's like the Frodo /
piercing blue eyes too,
I know, it's like, wow, that's totally it. But her dad, I forget his name. Her dad, I like how he's talking because now his speech pattern reminds me of like maybe this is Gollum's people. This is where Smeagol comes from. Like he's part of these type of people because Smeagol was something similar to a hobbit, but not a hobbit. So I'm like, maybe this is the origin of Smeagol's culture, where he originally comes from.
I believe he actually was a Harfoot. Yeah, because
there we go. Haha. That's how they talk, because they don't talk like hobbits. They're like, don't you know they are something? They're like, I don't know, malfunctioning the whole time to me, and that reminds me of Smeagol. So it's kind of cool. We're getting all those nods, and I really like who is it? I like seeing Lloyd Owen, the actor for Elendil, because he was a reoccurring actor in this BBC comedy called Coupling that I'm a big fan of. It was premiering the same time Office was over here when you watched BBC, the original Office, and he was a good actor, and I was like, it'd be cool to see more of him in other stuff. And now he is in this scene killing it. So I'm really rooting for those actors. Everyone else I love. It's really cool. Great performance and great characters, except the only guy I have an arc with is that Elven King. His accent breaks sometimes. You hear the American
Gilgalad?
in it every now and then. Yeah, Gilgalad. Every now and then his American accent breaks in, and I was like, I hear you, bro. You're North Hollywood all the way, dude.
He was in a movie called In the Heart of the Sea with Chris Hemsworth and Tom Holland, and personally, I really liked that adaptation of kind of like the Moby Dick lore. But he's really good in that. So for me, it was kind of cool just seeing, because I haven't seen him in anything else but that film, and I thought he did a good job, but I heard it too.
It's like a tiny nitpick,
Yeah.
but it happens with some of us American actors, as Savage Bat probably picks out better.
Yeah, America's definitely not canon in Lord of the Rings. I mean, the Lord of the Rings books are nearly as old. They're as nearly as old as America itself.
We haven't discovered yet. But him and Charlie Vickers, I think every now and then they kind of break, and I don't know. Charlie Vickers gives me like a CW Vampire Diaries vibe sometimes, but you're supposed to not like him. But I do like a lot of things, yeah. Oh, and I like how they're doing with Isildur, because Isildur seems like he's got some baggage, like he's always got something to prove, and I think that's good because he's the guy who, he's like, Isildur, throw it into the fire. He's like, no. So I like seeing little elements of, imperfection with that character. Like, choose the light, choose dark.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a great character going forward to see those elements of light and
yeah, he's our Anakin so far.
Yeah, that is a wonderful comparison to put him. He's definitely he's the chosen one, right? But he's the one that's gonna make us all come down, because he does kill the Emperor, or the Sauron in this case. But he's also gonna be the fall of everything, at least for a little bit. Super Bro Corey, your thoughts on all the cactus?
Yeah, I was actually really impressed with the Galadriel casting. I thought she did a great job. Every time I looked at her, though, I was waiting for that little sparkle and twinkle in her eyes, and right at the end, we got that little sparkle that they did so well in the first.
Were you hoping for her to start glowing green in the presence of a Dark Lord? You will have a queen.
Well, it's funny, she's been tempted multiple times, huh? So, I enjoyed her casting. I was actually okay with Elrond's casting as well. He had a very, like you said, Kojay, while it caught me off guard because it doesn't look like the original Elrond, it also made me take a step back and be like, well, wait a second. This is a aged Elrond. This is a Elrond that still believes in good, still thinks that, it's okay to send Galadriel away. It would everything's fine for Peachy Keen over here, and still young in the ways of the world, Middle Earth, and everything that's going on. So I actually, and I know a few people have mentioned in the chat, I loved Elrond and Durin. I wish they were in there more. I love the bromance, like people have said, between the elves and the dwarves, and that constant brotherly bickering back and forth. That always brings me joy. But there was a lot of great dual casting. So I thought they were really great together. As you guys mentioned with Arondir and Bronwyn, that was a beautiful group together, and Arondir bringing us that Legolas style character that we all love. He's just an absolute badass. And then I loved the Galadriel and Halbrand together as well, and their story arc and everything like that. I didn't really have an issue with anybody. It was fun seeing Isildur and watching how he kind of behaves and everything like that. Yeah, you're gonna. This looks a little familiar, bro. So I thought that was interesting. The one character that still kind of throws me for, a dizzy, I guess. I don't know what they're trying to do with this character. Is the Gandalf style stranger character, who we don't know much about. You know, I've heard a lot of people say, like, is he Gandalf? Is he a blue wizard? You know, I'm hoping that he's not Gandalf, and more towards the blue wizard. Not yet. Maybe I want him to be Gandalf. I haven't quite decided on him yet. But I guess I'm just so used to Gandalf's face, you know, and what I'm looking for.
Being Sir Ian McKellen.
Yes, being Sir Ian McKellen. So maybe that's thrown me off a little bit, because Gandalf's character is going to be the hardest one for me to see as a different character if they do go that route. Just because we've seen him in the Hobbit series, we've seen him in the Lord of the Rings series. So, yeah. But
what if he's Gandalf's pappy or master?
Right?
Saruman, maybe?
Yeah, Gandalf or Saruman, maybe.
So, you know, I thought they did just a overall great job casting, and I liked Halbrand a lot, man. He was exciting to me.
So were you team Halbrand and Galadriel shipping? Were you shipping that relationship? I heard people are going crazy for that.
No, I wasn't shipping that because you know, I don't know what if Galadriel like really has a ship, you know, like I would say probably more Elrond than you're going to say something, Raya. You get excited, yeah.
So I actually want to get y'all's thoughts, like, because they totally took liberty and killed Galadriel's husband, and we saw, like, in Lord of the Rings that, you know, her husband's, you know, well alive, you know, alongside with her, and was a holder of one of the rings at one point. So I don't know how y'all, you know, took that information, but because I didn't have a whole lot of information about her husband, I don't know if I should care or not.
That's a great question.
I think his name is Celeborn, right?
Yeah, Celeborn. Yeah. I don't think he's dead. I think he's just missing, or he's also captured or something of that effect. I don't believe.
Do we see his body?
Yeah, no, we don't see his body. We just hear her mention that I think she says, I haven't seen him since. She says something to the effect of, I haven't seen him since this moment. So, I mean, he could be out there, but it was interesting to not have him a part of the story. But something that the Lord of the Rings and even the Hobbit movies have kind of done has even kind of suggested that there was something between Galadriel and Gandalf. So that'll be interesting. I mean, at some point, Gandalf, you know, acquires one of the rings of power, the Ring of Fire. So that's going to have to be explained about how that's handled and why he gets it. Because obviously no one knows about him except for the Harfoots. Me personally, when it comes to the casting, I'm so surprised, Corey, that you hope that he's not Gandalf.
Well, I guess it's probably more leaning towards the Ian McKellen thing. You know, I want Ian McKellen to be Gandalf always. And I know I can't have my way there. So he's the obviously for certain reasons Gandalf is like the one character like I hold super like precious too. You know. Yeah.
For me, seeing Gandalf. Or at least, sorry, the Stranger is what they call him, but I'm almost certain he's Gandalf. I mean, especially with the final scene where he says, you know, always follow your nose.
Gandalf words,
to
right?
me, it really made me emotional and kind of moved that the fact that it kind of explains why Gandalf in the books and with Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, why he keeps coming back to these people that really Middle Earth could give two shits about, you know, that there's no reason to worry or want to have the Harfoots a part of it, but this kind of explains why he's always had a soft spot for them. While
it linked to the Hobbits,
memory, it links to his love and his passion for that community, because otherwise Gandalf probably has better things to do throughout the history of Middle Earth, you know, and yet
he gets free weed, man. Don't make him homies.
I'd just like to say that the guy.
He's like, yo, this shit's fresh.
Weed and fireworks.
That's the closest to the ground.
Yeah,
the guy that
weed man and the firework guy. That's why everybody is tripping out.
He's like, yo, bringing some fireworks if you know, make a little trade here.
I think the guy.
I'll catch you later.
The guy that plays the stranger overall is, I know he doesn't really say much to start with. I think overall he's the best actor in the whole thing. I see great things for his future. He's really, really good at doing facial expressions and acting with his face
And his
things
eyes.
like that. And his eyes, and I honestly, the acting is top tier, and I can see him after this becoming huge.
Yeah.
Whoever he is, can't even remember
I think his name is Daniel Wayman.
Yeah, but he's just such an incredible actor.
It's a Daniel Day-Lewis type of guy, man.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think he did a phenomenal job. I really do think he is Gandalf. And I think even Noel says it that, yes, he'll become known as Mithrandir.
Oh, damn.
No, I think Noel says that he's a blue wizard somewhere down there.
I'm surprised. Am I the only person that really believes that? Like, to me, this is no question. He's definitely Gandalf.
Well, he definitely says some themes that are very Gandalf-like. So I see what you're saying there.
I think his connection to the Hobbits.
Probably the blue wizard.
Yeah,
the follow your nose line taken straight from Peter Jackson's Gandalf. I'm just like, damn it, he is Gandalf.
And he has a certain gentleness about him towards the hobbits that, to me, he seems. It would almost be a weird mislead to have him not be Gandalf at this point, because we run into this issue now. Like, why does Gandalf care about the hobbits? Why did he just show up on Bilbo's doorstep saying, "You're going to be on an adventure with me. Let's have fun"? This kind of explains it, because in the Hobbit lore, the Baggins are related to the Tooks, who were known to be adventurers. People who would be, would not do the typical Hobbit things. And to me, it makes sense that maybe it comes from that line of, I think their name is Brandyfoots, is the particular group that I think her name is Nori. I think it's Nori Brandyfoot, which I agree, Kojay. She looks like totally part of that, like, Elijah Wood, connection there. Like, she's probably a descendant of some sort to the Baggins.
Let me ask the panel this, like, because it needs to be Ian McKellen. So if Ian McKellen was in Rings of Power, would you be upset by this, or would you like the not knowing that if this is Gandalf or not?
I like it not being Gandalf, because I kind of want more wizards, because they had an order. I'd like to see how that's grown and built and see more wizards about, I mean, I'm kind of,
For sure, what I'm saying is, but if this character actually is definitely Gandalf, if it comes out that later on in season 2 or season 3 that this man's Gandalf, are you going to be upset that's not Ian McKellen?
No, I'm cool, because this is young Gandalf.
Okay.
Just like Elrond.
Oh, yeah,
Gandalf, the early years.
Yeah.
And he's still old looking.
Yeah. He's like, I came down with a beard. I don't know what's going on. What
do you guys think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I won't be disappointed. But yeah, to Kojay's point, I would have liked for it not to be Gandalf, only because I want to be excited about new characters, just like how I was excited about all the new characters in Numenor, like the Queen Regent, Pharazôn, Elendil, etc. Those folks, and the Southland folks who were created for the show. Those are the folks that I get really excited about, because I have no expectations. So everything is going to be, fresh and exciting. But I won't be mad if this does end up being Gandalf, because he's not like the only character in the show. There's plenty more to be excited about and surprised at.
Absolutely. How about you, Savage?
I'm kind of not bothered really. Either way, like, if it's Gandalf, it's cool. If it's not, I'm cool. I'm just really enjoying it, and the cinema. I'm a sucker for really, really good cinematography, and Lord of the Rings of Power is so good looking. It's you know what I mean. You could just watch it on silent as just a piece of art. It's
almost disappointing that it's on streaming and not in the theater.
Definitely would have gone.
Whoa, Savage. The cinematography is great. I think what you meant to say is the dialogue. I'd be with you there on the dialogue, because that music was absolutely fantastic as
Yeah,
well.
that's what I meant. The dialogue. Yeah, that's what
yeah,
I meant.
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I could just watch it, without
Right.
people speaking and just with the music. Yeah.
Hell, I totally watch those Ambient Worlds YouTube channel videos when I'm trying to go to sleep. Like, I'm gonna turn on the Shire at night.
Blade Runner and Aliens is my fall asleep movie. Yeah.
Of course.
Interesting.
Hashtag Restore the Snyderverse guy with a $5 super chat train.
My man.
He says, was anyone surprised by the Gandalf Sauron twist that they were trying to make Gandalf also be Sauron, or a wizard, any random wizard that comes down with a shooting star asteroid?
Yeah.
Gave me a little Men in Black, Earl, vibes there for a little bit. But
me personally, I was surprised that they even teased it, because I mean, I guess if you've never watched the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films, it was maybe a shock to be like, oh my god, he's Sauron. But to me, from the moment he crashed down, it was like, that's Gandalf. I knew as soon as I saw him, I was like, that's and to be fully honest with you, and my Wonder Wife can attest to this, I knew exactly who Sauron was. I think in episode 2 when we finally meet Halbrand. The moment he said that he left his people to die, basically, I was like, really? Like, you just left him there and you're a king? Like, it's you. And then the fact that he was a good smith. He was a good yeah, he was a good smith. He was good at building things. I knew that was a trait of Sauron. Sauron was a brilliant smith, and he had worked with, many greats before him and learned their craft to building things. So I knew that. And the moment it was like 100%, there's no doubt anymore of who he is. It was as soon as he said, just call it a gift. And I knew Sauron was also known as the bringer of gifts. So it was like, boom, that's it.
All right. So then
Santa Claus.
I have to ask, because I knew that about Sauron too, but it wasn't until episode 8 I was like, what? It totally caught me off surprise. It was a big reveal to me. Did you guys figure it out before episode 8, or were you guys
didn't have a clue?
Yeah, same.
Oh wow.
No, I was like, what?
Yeah, I honestly did not have a clue what was going on. I thought that Sauron was either the stranger or the I can't remember his name now. Is it the Isildur's father, maybe? Yeah, that was just them two, I thought. Possibly.
Dang.
Yeah. I didn't honestly have a clue.
I thought it was Sauron because I don't know, for some reason when he fell down, I was like, "Oh, Mordor shot him out," and he landed there. And I don't know. I just with his powers,
that's what I thought.
I knew Sauron was a good smith, but I was like, "Oh, if he had magical powers, then that would help him, alter what he's smithing into magical elements." So that's why I was going with that, and yeah, they had me by surprise right there. I didn't catch on to all that. I guess
you're the greatest detective, Trey.
The Batman.
My wife hated it. She literally looked at me when it was revealed that he was Sauron. She's like, "Why do you have to ruin the surprise?" I was like, "I'm sorry." Like,
did she believe you?
That's such a dick move.
What did she believe you? If she didn't believe you, then still surprised.
Well, I mean,
she believed him.
I mean, I explained my reasons in episode 2, when I saw it and he was like, "Oh yeah, I just left my people to die and I'm like the king of the Southlands." I was like, "You're a shitty king then, and you shouldn't be back." And then when he was like, "Oh, here, let me be your smith. I'm really good at making things," and I was like, "You're definitely Sauron, man. Like that's all the things Sauron does."
Wow. Well spotted.
Yeah. That's why, for me, the whole to answer Restore the Snyderverse guy's $5 super chat question. Thank you so much, buddy. It wasn't, to me. It was a weird twist. Other than it was kind of funny that, and in a way, it kind of plays into that idea of like Gandalf, if he was given the ring by Frodo, when he says, with this power, I could be something evil. Like, to know that there is that side of Gandalf, or at least people were convinced that there's a possibility of that side of him. I think that was just kind of the nice little connection there, is that anyone can have that dark side about them. And I was intrigued by that thought that someone would confuse Gandalf as Sauron. But interesting. Yeah. How about you, Ray? Were you surprised at all by that twist?
I don't know if surprised is the right word. I was a little like, oh, the internet was right for all those leaks. Yeah, that's kind of where my mood was at. I was just like, please let it be like a plot twist and let us not like see Sauron, or we just see Sauron in his, true form and not the form that he's been taking this whole time necessarily. Yeah. So one red herring that I thought might be Sauron necessarily was Disa. So Disa had some signs of like being somewhat sinister, somewhat antagonistic, because she kept pushing Durin to rebel against his father to continue to mine it for the mithril. And Durin was like, no, we got to teach our children to respect the king. Like, what kind of king would I be if I go against my father like that? Disa continued to push him even after he gave his reasons why he didn't want to the first time. So I'm like, why is she so adamant? Like, why? This doesn't seem like the same Disa that we were introduced to. So she kind of has some like ulterior motives, or it seemed to me at the time that, she had this like, her eyes were always like kind of like a yellow orangish sort of golden color, but they ended up being like really like yellow red, like the eye of Sauron. So I was just like, oh god, is this like, a clue? But like, no, I think it was a red herring. Well, obviously it was a red herring. So yeah, that was the red herring that I was like hoping would actually be Sauron, Disa.
Interesting.
Oh, the thing that tricked me and my brother laughed at me was when they dropped the metal or whatever it was into the melting pot, and it kind of made a sort of Sauron's eye in the melting pot. I was like, so that's pretty much through the whole show. I was going, it's Sauron. even the melting pot. I was like, the melting pot is Sauron.
Yeah. Right. Which it was also great.
The rings of power.
Speaking of the mithril, it was awesome to see the Balrogs of Morgoth. That was, and the fact that they used the Peter Jackson design, because there's always been a lot of debates about the Balrogs, of if they had wings or not, because of how J.R.R. Tolkien kind of described things, So it was kind of cool to see that. Yeah, we're still in this world that we know.
I heard a rumor a while back that it's going to be more than one Balrog.
There should be. I think there was quite a bit, because there was like when the Battle of Morgoth was happening, there was like an army of Balrogs.
Yeah, that's what I heard, that they might do that. Yeah,
and
that'd be quite cool. I mean, one's a challenge, but you can imagine, lots of them.
Yeah, but also, what about dragons? Because remember, Smaug was the last. So how far are we back to where there's a certain abundance of dragons around?
I think we kind of got past, and that honestly, that's like kind of a little bit of my criticism with Rings of Power, is that there was, and I get like, because of it's called Rings of Power, there's a certain like time frame that you're expecting to be in. So this is kind of after all those events, but maybe that's what Amazon is thinking, is to eventually build on that time frame with the first stage, with really getting to learn about the Manwë, and Morgoth, and the whole battle that they all had with him, because his war went like insane with Balrogs all over the place, a giant dragon that they really fought against. That was just an insane final battle between Morgoth and the people of Middle Earth, which I would really love to see.
Yeah, time frame wise, is this before or after The Hobbit?
It's before.
Before, they say like
before.
So
this is the second age, and the Hobbit is the third age.
So we could see dragons.
We could. It probably just. I think the time frame
Trey,
of like
Trey,
there were a ton of dragons.
Trey, no,
was,
you're wrong, Trey. You're wrong. I'm telling you, you're wrong. I'm telling you because
you
Amazon
could see
wants.
Smaug,
I'm telling you because Amazon wants to be #1 in this category because of.
and they're going to take over Game of Thrones by having their own dragons.
Do you know what? I've just
Dragon Rider.
Something has just sprung to mind with all this talk of dragons. What if, like the eagles in Lord of the Rings, the dragons come and save the day with the Balrogs?
That's what I'm saying, man.
Oh, that would be interesting. I mean,
Yeah, bringing Hiccup and Toothless.
Fly in, and you think the Balrogs are indestructible, and then loads of dragons come in and kick their asses.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
I agree.
That's so funny. So, guys, in terms
Trey,
of
Trey, we gotta give this man his.
sorry, we
super
haven't
chat
even
video.
played the Restore Cyber Sky.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you pick at this one. I have 2.
You're gonna
so,
let me try?
I'm gonna let you pick this one. So I'm curious which one you pick because it is a Gandalf one. So.
Oh, there. You know what? I think I have to do it because there is the Gandalf one, but it's. You know, though, I'm going to save that in case if someone does a big super chat. Well, because that's too good to. Here we go.
And you have my bow.
And my axe.
Nice. All right.
So guys, we've talked about the characters now. Let's talk about the overall story of the season. How do you feel like everyone's obviously kind of just like the Lord of the Rings movies and kind of the Hobbit. The Hobbit kind of stayed central focus until the sequels. But with Lord of the Rings, there was a lot going on at different times, and they kind of followed different characters throughout, and it was done very smoothly. Do you feel like they were able to capture that same smooth storytelling with all the different stories they were talking about throughout the season? Let's start with Savage and then Raya, and then
Yeah, I do think they did capture the sort of imagination of the movies and stuff. The only gripe I had with it is in some places the music didn't kind of sort of fit with what was going on. It was alright for the most part, but in some places I was like, why are they kind of playing that music there? When they could have used a sort of more Lord of the Ringsy bit. Like the Hobbit, say for instance, with that traditional music from the movies. But yeah, no, I do think they did a good job with that.
Nice. Do you feel like there was a ton of filler episodes?
No, not really filler episodes. It was just. I was just saying that sometimes it sort of fell out of place with like what was going on and with the music and the storyline, and then it just like sort of all of a sudden fit back to what was happening. It just like sometimes it just went off the page a little bit, but it soon fixed itself. It was just like little bits in there. I think like you were saying about the editing. I think it was to do with that. But I'm not complaining though. It was just I just noticed it, and I'm not bothered by it.
Okay. How about you, Raya? What did you think about the general story of season 1?
Yeah, so I do think there was a challenge that they did their best to, execute on telling plot threads for various characters throughout the season. The subplot with Arondir and Bronwyn in the Southlands, the subplot with Halbrand, Galadriel, and Numenor, the subplot with the Harfoots and the Stranger, the subplot with Elrond and Durin and the Mithril. There was just there was a lot to execute and to set the foundation for in season 1. So I definitely kind of cited some of my criticisms as far as like the execution goes, like in the production quality, but I definitely think that there's more to celebrate like in it than there was to knock it for. So I definitely give it like a solid 8 out of 10 as far as like what they were able to accomplish. I was really committed to rewatching every episode every week in order to kind of like grasp as much detail as I could, because like I said, there's a lot of plot threads happening a lot of times, and time compression elements that they had to basically do large sweeping I guess like executing of very pivotal events, like I mentioned, creating the tower where the Smiths are going to create the rings of power, and where they're mining for mithril, and their time, Galadriel and Halbrand's time in Numenor. So yeah, there are a lot of different areas where, although time compression was sort of like, I wonder what like is going to, I wonder like what is the impact of these events, and what are these like spur of the moment decisions that they're making. There's room for interpretation as far as like that goes, and how well that was executed. Some of it does seem hasty, and then there are moments that seem to be paced a little bit slower, like the I want to say some of the parts with the Harfoots and the stranger elements, where the stranger goes from not knowing how to speak common English to then being somewhat acclimated to it. Now all of a sudden he's able to like tell Nori, Ishtar means wizard in your tongue. I'm just like, wait, how do you know what Ishtar means in any tongue? so yes, like just like some I apologize if I sound like I'm nitpicking. It's just I want to give credit where credit's due with some of the criticism that I have heard in the last like month and a half, and say, you know what, I still enjoyed the series, even though I can understand where these nitpicks are coming from.
No, that's great, because you're the one thing that I like about your takes throughout this show, Raya, is that you really dove deep into what the haters were saying, the people that were nitpicking, where I kind of kept the blinders on to what they say. So it's good for you to be that voice to analyze, like, oh, okay, this is what they're saying, and this is my take on what they were saying. So it's been really really valuable what you're saying for those who maybe have not made up their decision on whether or not they want to watch this yet. So.
And you brought up a great point, Ray, because that took me out of the moment too, when he all of a sudden was just speaking perfect English and happened to mention, oh yeah, it means wizard in your tongue, and I was like, where the hell did you learn all these languages so fast? And it's one of those things where I guess you can kind of suspect, based off the amount of traveling they must have done, that yeah, he probably picked up a few things on the way, but it was like all of a sudden couldn't get a sentence or a phrase out of them, and all of a sudden full sentences, and also speaking in different languages. And maybe there's something to say, and you could say it was maybe the execution that I think the three wraiths, because they kind of rejuvenated some of his memory, or what they suspected his memory was.
That was cool when you saw the wraiths.
I have a question. Were they actually wraiths?
I think they were kind of the pre-wraiths. They was kind of their own new thing, as Noel said, a new lore. But definitely setting up the Nine and the servants of Sauron, which will be exciting to see as well. I mean, to me, that's a story I look forward to see the men get the 9 rings of power that corrupts them into their greed to become his servants. I think that could be very intriguing, and hopefully they do it in a way where it's a bit of a heartbreak to like, to the King of the Nazgul was someone that you guys were kind of like really rooting for and like thinking he could save the mankind, and all of a sudden he's deceived and falls into the darkness. I think that could be a very powerful.
I did see actually one funny comment from someone about one of those wraith with the sort of short blonde hair looking like Eminem. They call him Slim Shady.
It's like, get my palms sweaty.
Yeah.
Palms spaghetti.
The way they transformed, like how she transformed and shapeshifter style. Man, I absolutely loved how they did that throughout the show.
Which is great that you bring that up, Corey, because one of Sauron's abilities is shapeshifting. And the Silmarillion, he can turn into a werewolf, a snake, and I think at one point, he turns into a dragon, but he also can make himself look like different elves. and stuff like that. So that
Do
he,
you think that was a missed opportunity by not having Halbrand shapeshift at all?
no, because
Or
I
because
think
it was since it was an end of episode reveal that maybe we'll see him shapeshift in future
I think we'll see him
episodes.
shapeshift again because he's going to be deceiving more. You know, Sauron is not quite done going around corrupting people yet. I mean, he was a brilliant. I mean, in a lot of ways, he was like Lucifer, right? He's like manipulating people, corrupting them. You know, trying to bring. You know, here. I mean, just like his name was, I'm the bringer of gifts. Here you go, take him. You know, and what they didn't realize, even though he taught them how to make the 3 rings of power for the elves, is when he creates the 1 ring, he's going to be able to control all of them. You know, so I mean, that's just, there's a lot of cool things they can do. It's just the question if they hit that mark, you know.
And I would say, as far as criticisms go, that was one area probably that I was only a little maybe critical of, and maybe, and I think as I kind of look back and I think about more, I kind of, and talking to you guys all today, like it doesn't heat me as much anymore. The fact that Galadriel, like, okay, so the reveal has been on Halbrand is Sauron, and that was a beautiful flashback on the way they told that story, how he tried to manipulate her in these, I don't want to say dreams, but like this, you know, inside her mind type stories and everything like that. Similar to what we saw with Frodo and Galadriel as well, you know, her picking him up and kind of going through the stories with him, with Frodo. The only thing that I kind of question, and again, maybe this is credit to Halbrand and Sauron, that he is the master manipulator. Got to be careful how you say that. That I feel like if I was Galadriel and I, you know, almost cut Elrond's throat, and I'm like, oh, okay, I just like had like some craziness go on, you know, Halbrand's helping us build these rings of power, you know, I'm thinking we need to put an all stop, you know, like a halt on these things, like, you know, like, and at first I was a little critical about how she like kind of went back, like, no, we need to do 3 instead. But then again, she has been tempted by the power, and she, you know, we saw what happens when she was presented the 1 ring to rule them all, right? So,
which I think is going to be a brilliant storytelling in the future, because she's looking at using these rings of power for good to fight the evil that she's, and I think that's going to be her downfall in a sense of why she has that element of darkness in her, because she's going to be so focused on destroying it that she's going to be willing to fight fire with fire, essentially, and give in to the darkness to beat the darkness.
It's funny that you say that, because I think it's making me forgive Galadriel even more with hearing that, because, you know, I was a little critical when I first watched it. I was like, oh man, she took the bait, you know, she's diving right into these rings of power. Yeah, she's trying to prove it to make it better, but this is her attempt to like, oh, we're gonna fight fire with fire type thing and beat them. But of course, Sauron, the master manipulator, he knows the overall scheme and plan. So, talking it through with you guys, it's making me feel better about it.
Yeah, and honestly, Corey, you brought up a point that I think Juan, one of our viewers earlier, was kind of bringing up about some of his issues. Did you? Perfect. Can you bring one of those up? Because I think that was a great discussion point, because that seemed to be a plot point that a lot of people were kind of like, well, that's weird. They're kind of making Sauron the good guy here.
Well, I never thought that at all. I felt that he's manipulating. He's a very great manipulator. But she definitely dove right into like, oh, let's continue with it, rather than like, I feel like I would have talked to Elrond, you know, like being my best friend. I would have been like, hey, yo, so this is the story. You think we should continue making these rings?
Here's how I kind of take it, and I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on it. With that whole sequence where he's trying to convince her, saying like, no, I believe in a new Middle Earth, you know, one that is free from all the rules of the past and all the wrongdoings. You've heard every actor talk about playing the villain, and the villain in every story's seems to believe that they're not the villain, that they are the savior. They just have a different way of going about it. And Sauron is no different, because I believe in the Silmarillion that there is that concept that Sauron believes in what he's doing is the right thing, that it's good to move past what the world of corruption is, and in a way he's kind of bastardizing that idea. But
I think what you're basically trying to say is Galadriel gave up on Sauron too soon.
no, because in the end, Sauron's evil. You crazy.
Very reminiscent of the Emperor explaining to Anakin the Jedi and the Sith are very much the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you guys to kind of
up
address Juan's issues with that particular scene where, you know, he's saying like, "Hey, if you come with me, like, no, you're the reason of all of this. You're the one that propelled this forward." He's like, "I was going to stay on Numenor and just enjoy life, but you have influenced me in this way to where my dreams are bigger than before."
I don't know if y'all are. I'm gonna go on a slight tangent for like a minute or two. I don't know if y'all are fans of The Sopranos, but the main character Tony Soprano goes to therapy, right? And his relationship with his therapist over like the few seasons, it basically emboldens him to become even more of a sociopath. In fact, any type of therapy sessions that he has or progress that he makes actually helps him legitimize the decisions that he's making for the better good, even though they are at the detriment for the people around him, the people he loves, etc. So I think like I definitely see this dynamic where Halbrand was using Galadriel to justify the decisions he was making to in his mind he is liberating the people of Middle Earth, but Galadriel is saying, no, you're actually ruling over them. He says, well, I see no difference. So he even mentions like, you're the one who, you know, took me to Numenor, and you're the one who made me leave Numenor to go and rule the Southlands. Like, I wanted to, you know, run away from all of that. So yeah, he's basically using her or gaslighting her in a way to say like, this is all your fault.
Yeah, the wonderful points all around, Ray. Like seriously, like on the mark. How about you, Kojay? What was your thoughts on Sauron's views about the world and how it needs to be controlled, and how he believes he's doing the right thing?
I still think he's a bad guy because of how his methods are, and I think this is just his own BS to hype himself up to do whatever. Because I have this feeling that he was working on the 3 rings with them, and I think he already put his influence on the rings so he can control them later. And so revealing himself to Galadriel was like, hey, I did my job, I'm going to bounce. Maybe I can get a little something extra if you join me. But if not, I can flaunt that, you know, I was here the whole time and I could leave. Because I think he gives 3 rings to the elves, right? So I'm like, what if we just saw that creation before our eyes? We just didn't realize it. And then the fact that he like got Galadriel all like angry, she gets to, you know, skip over that point. So I think he's playing some games.
You think he did everything on purpose to lead to this moment to get to the rings?
Yeah, I think he did his homework on getting close to everybody, because he saw Galadriel could be like someone he could tag along and go around. Because every time he could leave and check out, you know, mining stuff, he did, and then jump back on board like, yes, I will do this. Oh, I am the king. Because he was very specific to not look at that first orc, the Uruk, that elven orc guy. Yeah, he was really brief with him because he's like, I'll reveal myself to you later. So I'll just peace on out. So he was just playing them all the whole time, I think.
Jay, before we jump into that a little bit more, Raya has to take off now. So I wanted to give her a shout out and have her talk about anything that she's has coming up on her channel.
Yeah, thank you so much, Corey. And thank you to Trey and Savage Bat and Kojay for chatting with me. This has been an amazing convo. So on my channel, I do a lot of gaming streams, and I also do pop culture talks about TV and film occasionally. So this week I have a gaming podcast coming up. We'll be talking about the collapse of G4, the Gotham Knights frames per second discussion that's been happening online about the 30 frames cap across all platforms. And we'll also be talking about some of the Bayonetta voice actor controversy. So if you're interested in that, we'll be having that podcast on Saturday. And then in the meantime, I have a bunch of spooky October Halloween game streams in the pipeline through to that day. So please come hang out at Raya the Glimmering Harpy on YouTube.
Nice. Well, Ray, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's always a
absolute
blast.
pleasure to meet you for the first time, Ray. You're brilliant. Always a massive positive influence on the YouTube community. Never see you falter. It's great to see.
All right. Thank you guys
And
so
I'm
much.
sure
All right.
we'll be seeing you around too, Raya.
Yes,
Wink, wink.
you'll definitely see me in the chat. All right, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your show.
See ya.
All right, take care.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Man, always a blast having Raya. She's honestly one of my favorite content creators. So if you guys haven't subscribed to her channel, Super Bro Corey put the link in the chat. Please take a time to look at her show, and because she's doing some wonderful things over there. And like Savage said earlier, she's just like one of the most positive and supportive people, content creator that she's just always helping out and always like promoting other people's stuff. So to have an opportunity to finally promote some of her stuff is an honor, and it was just great to finally do a show with her. But so we'll definitely have her back, and I really appreciate her being here. So definitely subscribe to the wonderful Raya. You won't be disappointed.
So I
100%.
do want to dive deeper into that, kind of what we were talking about before. Were any of you guys interested on what would have happened if Galadriel joined Sauron? We know she's been tempted by evil and the darkness before, so he was putting up a really good front. It sounded pretty awesome, some might say. And the grass definitely looked pretty green on the side that he was trying to pull her into. Like, were you guys at all curious about what would have happened to the Middle Earth, alternate universe, if she joined Sauron? Do you think it would have been as ugly, as crazy of a universe that is in the future for the current Middle Earth? Or do you think the lady's touch, a little bit of a woman's touch to it, that she would have kept Sauron in check? And not in check, but like maybe a little bit more easier going. I'm curious in an alternate reality.
Yeah.
You go.
I was just thinking Star Wars again. Luke Skywalker and what was his wife's name?
Mara Jade.
Mara Jade. It would have been very much like that. Yeah. Yeah, that would have been quite cool. But alternative.
Right.
I think no, because I think we're going to see that, because we have yet to see what means when he takes control of all the other rings, when he has one to rule them all. I think we're going to see her later on be on his side for a second when he activates that power of the ring, because everyone's going to have the rings, and I think we already have 3 already for the elves. And then we're all good. Then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, I got you guys!" And all of a sudden we're going to see everyone dark, and it's going to be.
And then she's like,
or something.
"You're breaking my heart, Sauron."
Well, I mean, that's kind of an interesting thought.
Elrond's going to say that to her.
What if
he'll
he
be too.
shapeshifts to look like her husband that she's hasn't seen in years, to convince her, his next way of manipulating her, because at some point we know she has to pull from that power of the darkness, whether that's from the ring of power or maybe using the One Ring at some point. Maybe she's had it before and we don't know about that potential story. Galadriel would have divorced Sauron in one custody of her property.
I get that ring.
Intelligence
Probably.
right there. She's like, I'm taking the ring. You can keep Mordor. What? This ring is worth 3 times Mordor is.
And I want half of Mordor, actually. Is what
Right,
you're
half
saying.
Mordor, you know. But that's an interesting thought, Corey. I've often wondered that as well, like, because I think that's a story that needs to be told. I think we need to know why she has that side of her that we've seen in The Hobbit and in Lord of the Rings. And hopefully they explain that. I hope it's tragic in a sense that she doesn't realize it's happening. And I truly think it's going to be trying to fight fire with fire, and it's going to be the worst of her to where she's going to have to realize she has to let it go, but it's always within her now. But interesting thought for sure. Wow. That's
getting deep.
It's getting deep. It's getting deep, Super Bro. So guys, as we kind of come towards the end of this show, what are some elements that you guys really feel like they hit the mark on, that you would like to see them go further this route, and maybe what do they need to improve on? Where are the areas that they need to maybe either tweak, let go of, and advance in? Let's start with Savage.
Well, I thought overall the best thing about the whole thing was the Mount Doom thing, and it was Mordor. That was the moment for me. Really enjoyed that. And again, the only criticism got is sometimes the music was fantastic, but it kind of didn't line up with what was going on at the time. Maybe kind of improve that a little bit, but my rating is the same as Raya's, really. 8 out of 10 for season 1. Really enjoyed it, and a classic case of I couldn't give 2 shits what the internet thinks. I loved it.
He's like, you're wrong. Shut it.
Yeah. Scary dude.
Zip it.
Zip it.
Zip it. Have a whole baggage with your name on it. Lord Kojay, where do you feel like they hit the mark, and where do they need to improve or let go? And maybe what are some of your predictions for season 2?
Ooh. I don't have any predictions, actually. I kind of really want to see what they're doing with it. I like their pace. I like that they're taking their time with it. Now that we found out that they've planned like 5 seasons, I like that, because traditionally in all, most literature, they'll say that there's introduction, rising action, epiphany, climax, and then resolution. So with 5 seasons, you can complete that and you feel like its own full story. So them taking their time, I think is great. The only problems I have is that I think they draw out too many scenes. Like when she was on the boat and she had to get off, I think that took way too long. They were like looking back, where are you? Where are you? It was, I don't know, it drove me nuts. I jumped off of my couch to help them. So, I was like, no, get out of this thing. Like they do too many story stuff like that, and they do a little too much of the drawn out. Parents was like, you need to stick with the clan. I don't know. It's just a little too many things are drawn out dramatically, and I feel that they need to let that part go, and they need to embrace, because if they're embracing a lot of movies element, they got to embrace the Peter Jackson is a horror movie director. I think they need to focus on a little bit more horror along with all this great stuff they got going on. And then I think that'll fix that little problem I have there. But overall, I'm liking it. It's fantastic. It's a good time. It's a good ride. And yeah, I'm expecting that this is all like, sprinkles of what we're going to see next, because the action is really good. It's very brutal too. Seeing the villagers get slaughtered was mean. That was very mean. So this could go like to that epic war, everything. They could really make use of all this big budget, and I think they will. And I'm excited to see what they're going with. The music is beautiful, but now that you mentioned it, Savage Bad, I do notice little weird cues every now and then. But yeah, I'm happy. I like it. It's good.
Nice.
How about you, Super Broke? Where are you at?
Yeah, so I would say that one, as far as like Middle Earth goes, and these types of movies and shows, I absolutely love it. And Lord of the Rings is by far my favorite series, and I just think they do it the best, personally. I loved playing the games. I loved listening to the books. I loved the movies a lot. Now that said, I have an incredibly difficult time when things come to an end. So when I watched the first Lord of the Rings, the third one makes me super sad. It's the end of the Lord of the Rings, and then I find out we're getting the Hobbit, and I find myself being super sad by the third Hobbit, and I'm like scrolling and looking to see, if there's any other Lord of the Rings content or anything J.R.R. Tolkien may have produced that we could somewhat get a return for. And I knew he did like some pre-stuff in the books and stuff like that, but never really as deep as he
they
did
weren't
with the
really
Hobbit.
books at that point. It was just like short stories and character descriptions and stuff like that. Yeah.
So for me, this is like a resurgence, like a revisit, a rebirth of Lord of the Rings for me, and kind of getting into what I was talking about a little bit earlier. And this is partially why I haven't watched any of the extended cuts, because I know they're going to be a million times better. But it's still something that I could say, there's still something I could be excited about with Lord of the Rings. It's funny how I work. I don't get it. Like, I still haven't played, some of the last, video games that I absolutely love. The last mission, because I don't want it to end. It's just something weird about me. I don't like the closure of it all. But the other side of things too was, as you may recall, earlier this year, we lost our dog, and our dog's name was Gandalf. And one thing I would tell you: don't ever name your pets as a character that you love in a content or space that you absolutely love, because I haven't watched anything Lord of the Rings, and I love the movies because of after Gandalf. So it was tough. Like I've stayed away. I don't listen. I used to listen to the music and the soundtracks when I'd go to sleep at night. Haven't listened to anything since that day. So
rest in peace. Rest in peace.
I actually really appreciate the revisit to the Lord of the Rings side of things. So it's been touching to me in that side of things, because I was able to find a new passion and a new love again for the Lord of the Rings of like music and books. Actually started listening to the music again, and actually plan on watching the films again as well. So for me, it was huge in that sense. So I may have some additional blinders on to some of the negativity that's out there for it. So I hold it dearly to myself in a certain way. So I was actually, I enjoyed it the entire way through. I was going to give it like a 9-1.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair play. Fair play.
And mainly because, again, like I said, it helped me reintroduce.
I thought I'd go with an 8 because I think, like someone said, about big battles and stuff. I think that they're going to up the game as the show goes on.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave a little bit of room. That's why I went with an 8.
No, I'm going to give it a 9.
Hey!
9, all right.
I'm dedicated now.
The only little problem with the big battles thing is I do really like it, and it's a great part of Lord of the Rings, but I really thought that it spoilt Battle of the Five Armies. I found that film really quite boring because of it. So I hope they don't make the same mistake with this and still have some storyline, sort of following along with it. Because, I love all of Lord of the Rings, but I think definitely the worst is Battle of the Five Armies because of that. I know it's actually in the name, Battle of the Five Armies, but they kind of sort of just dragged on a little bit. I was like, I was checking my watch basically. The Battle of the Five Armies.
I feel you on that, bro. I was kind of hoping like The Hobbit would be a 2-parter. I felt like long 2-parters, you know? That could have been cool.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I feel you on that, man.
No, I hear where you guys are coming there. Yeah, Battle of the Five Armies. I think that was like an actual chapter title in The Hobbit. So it was kind of funny that they put it that way. But they definitely drag on the. I mean, the fact that they made The Hobbit into 3 movies kind of just told you was a bit of Hollywood greed there, saying like, "Hey, make 3 movies so we can make more money." When they really probably could have done it in 2.
Again, no, that's when like Warner Brothers had more control of it, because before it was New Line Cinema that had more control.
That's
over
right.
it.
Yeah, that's correct.
And they operate a lot different. I think New Line Cinema was very director-friendly type of company, like Paramount Pictures is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I seem to recall an interview where Peter Jackson had shown up at New Line Cinemas and said, "Hey, I would like to make a Lord of the Rings movie," and he was going to compile, Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King in one film. I don't know how you could do that, but the studio was like, "Dude, what are you talking about? Like, do a book movie, and that was the smart way to go about it." For Warner Brothers to be like, "Oh, The Hobbit." Trilogy with Lord of the Rings, trilogy with The Hobbit, but what? Like it's not even as big as Return of the King. What are you talking about? So I mean, I think for me, Super Bro Corey, I was right there with you. So yeah, the Gandalf. Any scene that I see with Gandalf nowadays as a character, I get emotional simply because of our dog. Just the gentleness of the character of Gandalf, and those scenes with the Harfoots and his interaction with them, it tugged on the heartstrings a little bit, and then probably even more because of that. So there was just moments I just like really fell in love with the show, and it took me back because I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan, even though I haven't read all the Silmarillion yet, which I'm going through it. But like to me, it was just very much kind of, as Corey said, a rebirth, getting re-immersed into that world again, the innocence of it, the beauty of good versus evil, rather than the political drama that House of Dragons creates. I like that innocence. I like that imagination taking flight. In a way, and to me it felt like it was Lord of the Rings. It felt like Peter Jackson's world, but it added something new to it, because now I'm seeing some of the backstory of why does Gandalf care about the hobbits? Why is he always going back to them? Well, now you're seeing that he had like the people that were first kind to him. He could have fell where those 3 wraiths were, and imagine the person he would have become then. But he happened to be lucky and land where the Harfoots were, and he was able to build morals and just being the general kindness that now makes sense of why Gandalf is the way he is. But you're also seeing the backstory on Sauron and Galadriel, and while it might not be exactly book canon or how it goes down in the books, it feels true to the characters so far. And I appreciate that. I love the music. Bear McCreary is one of my favorite composers. I love that Howard Shore did the opener of the entire series. I'm excited where they go. I'm excited with what they have to offer and how much story we can go into. And I think, like Noel said, if Amazon really wants to take over the fantasy genre, there's so much story that they can tell, even though yes, J.R.R. Tolkien didn't get to finish a lot of that story. We do know enough based off Christopher Tolkien's writings and notes on it that we have a good understanding of where we can go. I hear people's concerns who don't like that they're not following Tolkien because, Tolkien's work it's like divine work, right? Like you just don't touch it. It's beautiful, like masterpiece work of building, world building. And I still think though they're doing a great job. They're creating a story that I care about. They're creating elements that I feel like you can really get behind. And I think if they just continue to stay dedicated to creating good storytelling using the work of J.R.R. Tolkien and world building and creating And staying within Peter Jackson's cinematic universe.
You just reminded me of something funny when you said about speaking the Elvish thing.
Yeah.
I just recently watched a clip of J.R. Tolkien talking about how he wrote invented languages since he was very young.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the interview, he says, I really want people to enjoy these languages, but I don't want them to end up talking into each other in it in some sort of cult.
Little
did he know.
Oh,
I want myself. It's this guy's from another planet. Well, it's absolutely classic. You know.
Yeah. Oh man. So I think for my rating, I think there were some things I want them to. I wish they would have gone into backstory. Like I love the whole Battle of Morgoth and Sauron. That I was a little sad that they skipped over that they kind of just like briefly touched on it and then just went to the story they wanted to tell. But other than that,
flashbacks.
Yeah, I think they could always do flashbacks. So I'm curious to see where they go with it. I think I'm right there with you, Corey. I'm kind of like in the 8-9-9-1 range. To me, it was beautiful. I love this.
They have to pick, Trey.
I'll go.
I'd really like to see Sauron in his, in his sort of cool armor. I'd like to see him kicking some ass in that form at some point.
Yeah.
Kind of sort of Darth Vader hallway scene would be like that'd be cool. That'd be very cool. Sauron Unleashed. I'd like to see that.
I mean, they're advertising the Balrog and his armor, in the picture that you just showed. I think we're definitely going to get that,
Yeah.
And I also look at this as like, just a prequel to the movies, not really the books.
I think that's a great way to look at it.
That is a good way.
Because essentially that's what they are, because they're taking a lot of nods from the movies more than anything else. And, like I said earlier, these are all adaptations that really didn't have the blessing of the writer anyway. So it's just easy. So it's like, take it if you want it. If you don't like, then chill.
Yeah, what is the deal with that? Because in the credits, there was a someone Tolkien in the credits. Is it?
It probably was Christopher, because I know
Christopher. That's it. Christopher.
Christopher is JR's son. Who had a major hand in the pre-production area, and that's what some of the criticism was, that there was word that Christopher Tolkien kept saying no to a lot of the things that Amazon wanted to do, because he was very protective of his dad's IP. Like Christopher, and I think that was the thing, that Christopher felt like Peter Jackson was very much, I think like they were on the same page, same team. Like, I want to do this. Like, okay, let me get your advice on it. Like, I think that's okay.
I thought that was very odd that they didn't use Peter Jackson, and I heard a sort of story that they went to speak to him.
They ghosted him,
and then they ghosted him. Yeah.
So that was the biggest
thing
thing that alarmed me as well. And like I said, I believed a lot of the content creators out there were like, oh my God, this is going to be awful. They ghosted Peter Jackson. And I mean, to me, that still alarms them. I think just business wise, that's not very professional to say, hey, can we have your thoughts on something? And then never ask. But in the end, it's Amazon's IP right now. And yes, it would be nice if they reached out to Peter Jackson.
To be honest with you, I'm never really bothered about stuff like that, because some of it we hear about, but in most productions, things like this happen in everything. It's just you just don't know. You just don't know about it, so it's not even worth worrying about.
Well, I mean, if you're just an average fan, just enjoying the IP, you would never know about it unless if you were like us nerds, like waiting to hear.
Like back in the day when you just used to go to the cinema with no knowledge of any production or anything and just watch a film and enjoy it.
Exactly. But us content creators, we're digging into everything.
We're ruining it for everyone.
Right. Because we're also beers, don't watch it.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who hung out with us in the chat today. Yes.
Before you get too far, we need a.
We haven't done ratings from the live audience. I'm sorry, guys. See,
exactly.
Bro is keeping me on tap.
So obviously 9-1 from Trey, 8 from the Savage Bat. Kojay gave it a 9. Raya gave it an 8. I gave it a 9-1. Bat Fanatic coming in with an 8.9 out of 10. Hashtag Restore the Sandverse guy with an 8.2. A 9-1 from Oracle's Clock Tower. An 8-8 from Red Hooded Outlaw.
Okay.
A solid 8 from Gerald's Harry.
Okay.
8-1 from the Butler. Noel gave it an 8. Still just season 1, given their production limitations when they were in New Zealand. Absolutely.
Yep.
Did I miss anybody else's score? People are saying we should do watch parties.
We'll probably do some watch parties as we gear up for season 2.
That'd be cool. Yep.
Yeah.
A lot was more about country politics, which is why Amazon put on New Zealand. Hence the Peter Jackson ghosting.
Okay. Did not know that.
He also said they had production problems with the Hobbit trilogy with Guillermo del Toro.
That's true.
Initially directing it, Peter Jackson took over as a troubleshooter. So
I think he came in very last minute, which is why The Hobbit was like a very stressful production, if I recall. I do remember all the controversy around the initial Hobbit production, but then again, they were trying to make The Hobbit for years after Lord of the Rings. But yeah, man.
Remember in The Hobbit when one of the dwarves he was like in a barrel and he busted out and he just started fighting like he had barrel armor? That's so Guillermo del Toro. I love seeing that, by the way, from Guillermo del Toro. I was like, that's so you, bro. I just want to throw that out there. I like that moment.
No, I agree, man. I just love the whole Middle Earth lore. Like, it'll be exciting, but and hopefully, guys, I'm hoping that this stream does well. So make sure to like, share if you haven't already, so that way we can spread the word. Because if it does do well, like, I think we will break down each episode of season 2 when it comes out with our Rangers of the North stream. I want it to be worth everyone on the panel's time and stuff like that. And speaking of making it worth all your guys' time, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. It really does mean a lot. I know it was kind of last minute. So as always, I like to roll out the red carpet for you guys. My man, Savage Bat, tell me what you got going on, brother.
Well, I do. I've got the sort of Saturday and Sunday streams going on at the weekends. I do Saturday with Zod Writer, and sometimes we have a guest on. Sometimes it's just me and him. And then a crossover stream on the Sunday. But this weekend is going to be spoiler talk on Black Adam. So I'm going to see it Friday. Ooh. So if you haven't seen Black Adam by then, don't tune in. But we're just all going to be discussing
spoilers.
Black Adam, what we think of it, and the future of Restore the Snyderverse. Really. So kind of looking forward to that. And
that's going to be exciting.
Yeah. So it's going to be Black Adam all the way next weekend.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of Black Adam streams too, and I would love to have you guys on as well if you're available to kind of talk about maybe future predictions and where Black Adam 2 could go from there. A lot has been going on. If you guys haven't been paying attention to the Black Adam news that's been happening, I think it's pretty much out of the bag now, but I don't want to ruin anything for some new viewers who are going to be watching this Lord of the Rings. We are a big DC channel as well. But there's some big surprises in Black Adam that if you're a DC fan and you're hoping for good DC content and good movies, I think Black Adam's going to be a good one. So I definitely recommend getting your tickets and watching it. My man, Lord Kojay. You had a fire Battle of the Belts show last night.
Oh, you saw my pay-per-view yesterday. Yo. That's why I'm drinking electrolytes. I actually have a slight hangover because I was drinking. That show. That was a good time. I was glad it turned out.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Oh, I'm glad you guys liked it. My channel. There's gonna be more on my podcast. I'm gonna be talking more about my opinions of random stuff, having more conversations with good folk. Hopefully, you all too at one point. This weekend, I'm gonna be traveling up north. Hopefully to catch some Lucha Libre. It's gonna be first of my installment, like some of my little travel documentary stuff I want to do. And yeah, I'm just working on more pro wrestling stuff. You can always catch me doing some video game live stream. I'm either talking or just chilling. But yeah, there's always stuff going on my channel. But that's what I have in the bag so far. Thank you.
Nice. Guys, I'm so excited. Please subscribe to Lord Kojay. He's doing some crazy cool shows with the Battle of the Belts, the Snyder Cut Fighters, and Kojay's Corner. I'm loving the Kojay's
Kojay's
Corner
Corner.
shows.
Oh, thank you guys.
And all the weekend streams that Savage Bad's doing. Man, you the weekends, Savage is just like working 24/7. So
Hey, well, it's 10 past 4 a.m. now.
It's crazy the time difference.
Yeah, I know. And I only just made it tonight for the same reason Kojay was going on about. Had a little bit of a drink yesterday and was feeling a bit worse for wear. And it's been a while since I had a drink as well, so it was double the hangover.
Yeah, I'm a lightweight, so anytime I drink is good.
Yeah.
Like I'll have 2 beers, like, yo, what's up, guys? Too much mean to me. I'm like a pint. I'm like a hobbit. It's got a pint.
Polished off a litre of vodka yesterday.
Oh,
Very
thanks.
Oh yeah.
Boom.
You do the tequila?
Sometimes I
Yeah.
stick to the vodka, you know,
Alright, I'm a
and
tequila
Pepsi Max.
Oh, okay.
Pepsi's where it's at. I just the Bat Channel. If Pepsi ever wants to sponsor us, I'm a Pepsi over Coke guy. I will fight this battle every day.
Yo, have you? Yo, I like
My wife
Coke.
and
Wait, traitor.
Wait a second. Didn't you just say Pepsi?
With
over,
vodka, but
Oh.
I had this just to wake me up before we done the stream because I was like,
Yo, have you guys tried? I don't do soda, but I got back into having some soda, and there's Pepsi Nitro. Have you heard of that?
Oh,
That thing is.
oh.
I
It's
did
really
try
cool.
that. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's a cream soda. The top layer is the cream, and the bottom is the Pepsi, and you're supposed to pour it so it mixes. And I'm like,
I didn't know
whoa. No, don't drink it out of the can. Otherwise, you won't get the full experience. You're supposed to pour it, and it does like an Italian cream soda thing. Wow, it's good. It comes in regular and vanilla flavor. So yeah,
Nice.
Interesting.
That's
I'll
my
have to
review.
do that 'cause I've only drank it out of the can, so I don't know.
No,
I'll
you're
have
supposed to pour it. Try it, man.
I did not know
There's
that.
no
I
mix.
failed. I know how to drink Guinness, but apparently not Pepsi.
You just get the cream at first.
I just like,
I gotta
seriously.
try it that way, though. I gotta try it that way.
Oh man, the
Break the
Butler
rule.
coming in with a $10 super chat. Last man saying, please do more #Revenge of the North Streets. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, and it takes me back with sweet memories with my father. Thank you for the fun. Oh man, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, that's the thing, if it takes you back to a beautiful memory, trip down memory lane. That's all you can hope for with great content and media, and entertainment. It should be an escape. It should, bring some emotions out of you that are either, help develop your character, or maybe you inspire you, or to think bigger or go bigger, whatever what your dreams are. So I'm glad it takes you back, man. That's awesome. And how cool is that? I think I read in the comments earlier that your dad used to read the books to you when you were a kid, so that's really special. That's cool to hear. But Super Bro
Nice.
Corey, can you play my man a little something special?
I'm gonna let you play it. I hope you play the one.
Oh, you know which one I'm gonna do. Hopefully my theme doesn't drag. Here we go.
I don't know why I like that laugh so much.
Have you seen that funny edit of it where they've got their teeth missing?
I've seen the one where they have crooked eyes. There's so
Yeah,
many
that's
little
it.
memes.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Well, Butler, thank you so much, brother, for that $10 super chat. It really does mean a lot with your support. And guys, as we wrap up tonight, please, as always, smash.
How long do you think Yannick was waiting there by his bed? That's something that I always think about when I see that scene. Like just waiting for her, standing there, waiting for him to wake up.
Because he does sleep with his eyes open. He can be like,
Yeah.
I've been waiting this whole time.
Maybe that's why he left that way. He was asleep with his eyes open. He woke up. He's like, oh.
It's like, yeah.
And on that note, this show has gone off the D train.
You're welcome. Just took that train right off the rails.
Just take it right off. Oh my God, you guys are awesome.
Not even any Shire weed in sight.
Yep, exactly. He's like, hello,
Little hobbit. He's like, I've eaten all your lambus bread. Oh my gosh. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. As always, you can follow us on our social media pages like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at _Bat Channel. Our Discord is coming soon. If you're on Facebook, you can also follow us at Holy Bat Channel, where you can reach out to us, send us a message about what you would like us to talk about next, or maybe some things that you really enjoy that we do that maybe you want us to expand on. We'd love to hear from you guys, or just send us some cool stuff that maybe it's artwork that you're working on, or your own YouTube channel that you're building. We'd love to support you guys as well. But as always, smash that like, share this video, subscribe if you haven't already. Help us get to 2K. We can't do it without you guys and your support. And hit that notification bell, because I can't tell you how important that is, because you'll miss some of your favorite commentators like Lord Kojay, the Savage Bat, Raya, the Glimmering Harpy, and Super Bro Corey's been doing some crazy stuff. He's leaving me for the Zod Rider show. That was hilarious.
That was brilliant.
Yeah. But guys, thank you so much. I am your host, Trey, with
the motherfucking Batman, the Savage Bat.
And poof, Kojay. Oh, I missed. I was supposed to hit you.
and this guy.
Oh, and Super Bro Corey. Special shout out to the Butler. # Return of Sniper Sky. Bat Fanatic and Trevor H for the super chats. You guys are awesome.
Awesome. And my fellow Rangers of the North, the fellowship has come to an end. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to tune in weekly.
Same bat time.
Same Bat Channel.
Yeah.
See
What they
Good
said.
night, everybody.